Ready? I'd like to call this meeting to order and thank everyone for attending. Can we have roll call, please?
Mrs. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Gus?
Here.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Here.
Mrs. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Winkler?
Here. Let's rise for invocation. Stay standing for pledge of allegiance, please. Mrs. Smith, please.
Let's pray. Dear God, thank you again for the opportunity to come and serve the district in this manner. God, just watch over all the discussion and the voting and help us to continually do the best for the district staff and students. And God, just help us to continue to grow and be better in this district. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have a few things to put on the agenda. Under personnel, up for supplementals, we need to put a motion in there to accept the resignation of Bill Fox as Bellsville football coach before we accept.
It's already on there.
It is?
They added it tonight.
Oh, they added, well, it wasn't there?
Yes,
It's already on there.
And then another thing, under superintendent's report, which we all agree, Mr. Dan Stewart be able to speak as soon as he can leave, and we'll discuss it later. Okay, thank you. So just the approval of the agenda, right?
Mhm.
Anyone else got anything?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Oh, yeah, but yes, it says my signal's weak.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes, motion carried. We have no public participation?
I do not have any.
Nor-
What's that, Rob?
No, I said nor do I.
Okay, we'll go on to the superintendent's report.
All right. Thank you. You have Mr. Stewart there. I'll just let him go first so he can get done. So, Mr. Stewart, you have the floor.
Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah.
I'm here on behalf of the Ohio State Clay Target Shooting League. I think I sent you all have information on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to Bev earlier, and she was talking about additionally insured is what the district would want. And I got that paper earlier. It costs the district $50 to be additionally insured, to be put on the policy that you are already listed on. This is open from, initially it's open from grades 6 through 12. Sign-ups are open right now. They're open until March. So any kid that is interested in the 6 through 12 can sign up. My initial thinking on this is that we should probably limit the first sign-up 9 through 12 in all the high schools, and then as long as we're not overloaded, then we can add the 8th grade, then the 7th grade, then the 6th grade. It's $35 for the initial sign-up per child. The parent has to go right onto their website, enter their debit card, and all the child's information. That's how they get added to the insurance policy. Without that, they can't show up, they can't do anything. That has been emailed to me, a whole list. Everybody that's on it, that would be who is eligible to do this. If the parent doesn't fill it all out, it kicks them out. They have to actually go in and do it. It's all up to the parent instead of the coach to go in there and say, well, we thought we had it, and it's wrong. So it's all up to the parent to go in and do it. Then once that list is completed in March, then it's sent to me, and these people are good to go there. Now, my initial thinking is that to talk to the students at different schools and maybe have a paper, send it to each high school, have them read it on their morning minutes every morning, and then set up, talk to Monroe Central, Woodsfield about using the cafeteria, have everybody come there at one meeting. That way everybody gets the exact same, all the parents that want to come and see what it's about, just have one meeting with everybody instead of trying to go here, 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 and here. That way everybody can know what everybody else is thinking. It's open to all, as long as you're a Switzerland of Ohio district student, or your school does not have this option, is what they said. They like to keep it in the district and have other districts, he said, but he said they don't necessarily stand by, enforce that if you have somebody that wants to do it. They like to have other districts added to it. The closest district that here is doing it is Beaver Local and Athens. So those are, I've talked to them. Athens said they've done it for, I think, 2 or 3 years now. They didn't do anything in the fall because of COVID. They kind of just waited on it. But it's an outside sport, so people are spread out. There's usually only around 5 children there at a time because they'll be assigned certain shooting times. You have 5, they're spread out, everybody shoots. They do their 50 targets. It's a 9-week course that they stretched out, and they've added a couple extra weeks because of COVID now. That way, if this kid is quarantined, he doesn't miss his shooting spots. He can make them up later once he's cleared to come back out. So these kids, they don't miss out by doing COVID. The same rules that they use in college and in the Olympics. So the High School Clay Target Association gives out scholarships at the end of the year. Every student that completes the course is eligible for the state tournament at the end of the season in the summer when school is out. They have to pay an entry fee, which I think is another $35 that pays for their targets. They still have to provide their own ammunition. It's very clear on what you're allowed to use, which we take care of that. And then it'll average out to around $225 after the $35. Parents can work something out. So some districts had it so that they paid every week. That way they didn't cost them all the money at one time up front. They came every week, they paid their money, they were given their shells, the targets and everything, and they're allowed to shoot. Other than that, some of them, paid up front or whatever. And then they go from there. There is lots of money out there for grants and everything that we can, but until you actually have a yes, you can't, these people don't want to commit any money. They say, yeah, we have it, but you have to have this and this and this. And then we'll go from there. They do a lot of these coaches that I've talked to, they do fundraisers. Their kids never pay a dime other than their $35 once they get going into their fundraisers. So some teams are 10 kids. The one team in Minnesota that I talked to the gentleman, he's got 45 kids on his team. So, they're all different levels, but everybody is even. They all shoot the same targets at the same spots, period. It doesn't matter how big you are, how fast, how tall, whatever. It doesn't matter what else you do. A lot of these kids, most of the coaches said probably half of them play other sports. And then they work around their shooting time so that they can come shoot their 50 targets a week and then go from there. So it doesn't, you might not be the fastest, the strongest, but you might like to shoot or hunt, which most of the kids in our district do. So it says you have to have your own shotgun to be able to do this, which, like the gentleman told me, he said they have a lot of gun clubs that they go to and they rent them shotguns. You can borrow them, whatever. So that's not a big issue right now. The biggest thing is that when we just need your approval, which I've sent all the information out, and we need your approval to use the school name. It's not under the Ohio High School Athletic Association, so those rules do not apply to this. It's more like a glee club. So you have a club that you can join or whatever. None of this stuff comes to the school. They're not allowed to bring any of this to the school, nothing at all with the shells, the guns. They go home, they get mom and dad. Mom and dad brings them to the range at their assigned time, and that's when they do take care of their stuff. Nothing comes to school. We'd like to have them, we'll get them shirts, hopefully, Monroe Central Shooting Clay Targets team, whatever, and then we'll go from there. They like to have it included in the yearbooks in the school, and they'd like to see the high school kids be able to letter. There was provisions in there, you know, you have to make every shoot, you have to do so much, you don't just get a letter just because you showed up. The rules are the rules. There's a lot of rules there. There's a lot of rules that I have. Most of you I've talked to. Most of you know me. The rules are the rules. There's zero tolerance when it comes to this. It's not a 3 strikes and you're out policy. It's a 2 and you're gone. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Okay? Because the first time you get a strike, we sit down with the parents and the child and we have a discussion. The second time it happens, you're just plain gone. Okay, because evidently you didn't learn the first time, and if you're not going to learn the first time, we don't need a third time. So, you know, like I said, there's a zero policy because, as I explained before, if you're out in the parking lot with Jimmy, Joe, and Bob out there talking, waiting to go to your turn to shoot, we don't get our guns out and show them to each other. You want to do that, you go home, mom and dad, whatever. When you're here, they're suited up, they're in their cases. You come to the line, you get your stuff out, and we go from there. Other than that, you know, that's what it is. Most of the kids that have done, they say over half of them have never fired a firearm before. I don't think that'll be in Monroe County, but, you know, if you teach them right from the beginning, there's no, usually you don't have to worry about it. But as I tell kids, I've coached and I work with the juveniles, and as I tell them, the rules are the rules. Always listen to your mom and dad, but when you're with me, this is the way it is. I'm not going to tell you not to listen to mom and dad, but this is the way it is when you're with me. And that's the bottom line when it comes to rules in this. So, does anybody have any questions? Or
Dan, I got one. Do the kids have to pass a hunter safety course?
They all have to take a safety course, period, that's mandated by this. Plus, they can take a hunter education course that is also eligible for this. I've talked to Keith Jones, who actually gives the course, and you know, and we're going to work out something to where these kids can actually take this class with their hunter safety class, and then when, you know, they'll have their be able to get their hunting license when they leave this, if they've never hunted before, and be able to go do that too. So it's kind of, you know, it'll overlap.
And then also, I think you explained to us, when you have a competition with others, it's videoed.
At the state level, it's on video. Yeah, if you go on there, the Ohio High School or Ohio State Clay Targets League, and there's several videos on there that you can click on and see the state shooters. There's some of them you can click on and see. Every week they post the scores. Every morning, Monday morning, I think before 4 a.m., I'm supposed to enter all the scores for each kid for the week prior to that. How many targets they hit out of 50. They shoot 25 and then they shoot 25. So some of these kids are really good. I think the number one shooter in the state was a girl, and she was like 24.6 out of 25. That was her average for the year. And that's pretty good. I mean, that's like missing 1 out of 125. So, you know, but that's what they do. You know, you don't need a $1,000 gun to do this. You can do this with a $100 gun. You know, you can do it with grandpa's gun, as I said. You know, you want the gun to really fit the kid and teach them how to use it. But, you know, as a couple kids I've talked to, they said, well, I don't have one. I said, well, we can fix, you know, whether I let them borrow one, you know. Smaller kids need smaller equipment, but everybody shoots the same stuff. It just fits them a little bit better.
And where do they go to shoot?
Well, we talked to the city about using the city range, and we don't think that's going to work. We're on a couple other, I'm going to talk to the commissioners about using the industrial park out there. They have a lot of dead ground out there. So we're going to talk about that hopefully next week. But if nothing else, we can use the hayfield at my house to shoot.
We don't have a shooting range.
Well, have you tried down by Monroe Lake?
Doesn't work. We can't shut down that for 2 days a week just for kids. Plus, there's no facilities there.
Right.
There's very, very little parking. I even thought about the Sportsman's Club. They don't have enough open area for it. The industrial park is a great idea. You know, I've talked to the Port Authority about down on the river even. So, you know, we'll go with the commissioners and see what happens. It'd be nice to have it out here where, you know, it's kind of centrally located, you know. But the other thing is that the Ohio Department of Natural Resources has millions of dollars right now, and they're building shooting ranges in other counties. The one that you see on the website up there up by Columbus is a multi-million-dollar facility that the DNR put money into, and that's where they hold the states and national shoots at on some of those. So there's a lot, but there's no reason to come to Monroe County if we don't need it. You know, there's just, you know, once we have a team and say, yeah, we need this, you know, the DNR, the NRA, all of those have money available to help out, but we have to have a need and a cause to be able to try to get the money.
Anyone else? Thank you very much, Dan.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll holler at you after the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart.
You're all here.
Yeah, Mr. Winkler, you ready to move on?
Go ahead.
Okay, you just looking at the screen here, we'll just go through our cabinet rather quickly here because I know Mrs. Bohatch and some of the ESC guests here have a presentation to put on. So, Mr. Rubel, you have anything?
Yes, there's a couple things, excuse me, I want to go over. So I just wanted to announce that we just completed our chemical operator class. We had 6 students in the program. It's our very first class. We were planning on going, starting it last spring, but as you know, COVID hit and everything. So we had 2 instructors, Chris Blue, Sam Langford. They both teamed up to teach. Considering the circumstances with the COVID and everything else and being in quarantine, particular different times, I think they did a tremendous job. Again, like I said, 6 students were in the program. And if I can share my screen, I'd like to show you what we have as far as, well, I can't share it right now. So on next week, we have partnered with RCBI, Robert C. Byrd Institute, to teach NIMS, N-I-M-S certification to adults as well as our students. They started on the 18th. So it's going to be a teaching our seniors as well as adults and industry folks. So that's going to be every other week, Thursday and Friday. Everybody's going to be NIMS certified. The teachers are going to be able to certify next year and not go through RCBI. So we're very happy with that. Like I said, we got 11 people signed up for that. April 5th, we are planning to start a welding class, 50-hour class, along with heavy equipment. Talking with the industry, the NIMS certification, the heavy equipment, and welding are in-demand jobs in our area, so we're hoping to fulfill those needs. And we have started a GED class. It's Tuesdays and Thursdays there at the Career Center, so we're hoping to advertise, signed up for that as well. So a lot of things are happening, and we're pretty proud of where we're going. Any questions?
All right, thank you, Mr. Rubel.
Thank you.
Equipment. I got a quick question on heavy equipment.
Yeah.
We was told when we voted on it, the board was under assumption, that I asked them, I says, now, just for the training for the kids, and they said, yes, it would not be used for nothing. The kids would be done this equipment. Now you're wanting to use adult education equipment. That's what, when we voted on it, that's wasn't what we was told. It would just be for the kids only, for training only. We wouldn't even want to do our own jobs or nothing around the school district. That equipment was supposed to be bought for the use for the kids only of the district. Does any other board members, do you remember that? Bev, Sarah?
No, I do.
Yeah, I brought it up distinctly. I asked Mark Romick, I called him today, he hasn't returned my call. And Mark said, yes, it's just for the kids. Now you're coming back wanting heavy equipment for adult education. How long is that equipment, if we keep letting everybody use it, how long is it gonna last? spent a lot of money on it, and we spent it on it for the kids. We didn't spend it for the whole education. And if you go back to the meeting, look at the minutes, and you'll find out that I brought it up to Martin. Connie, you probably don't remember it, but I'm just telling you, he promised us then that it would be for kids only.
Meeting was here.
Whenever, how long's that been, over a year or so?
Well, I
When
mean,
we
you said you look
approved
at the minutes, I thought you would know.
No,
Yeah, he's
I didn't
looking.
look at it. I asked Connie if she remembered.
I can look them, I can get the,
Yeah, do you
recording.
have them minutes taped?
Yeah, they're
Okay,
recorded.
then, I'll look it up this week, and I'll tell you what meeting was, and you get the tape, and it was told, and I remember Mark promised me that it'd be for the kids only. So I didn't even want us to take and use it for, like, going out and doing projects, but then they went ahead and bought a dump truck and a trailer, and I'm pretty sure they did a couple projects, and I'm okay with that because the kids got the experience. I'm not for letting the adults use it.
Connie, can you
Correct,
forward us
Jerry,
that?
you're accurate.
Yeah, once I find it,
Hey,
I'll
wait a
see
minute.
when we approve it.
Someone's talking here. Oh,
That's who it was.
I thought someone said something. That's not.
No, I'm sorry. I'll do whatever the school board wants, obviously. All I did was go out to the industry, and it seems like it's a in-demand industry that companies are looking for qualified employees. And we do have those resources, so it's just just trying to take advantage. The adult ed program would be in the evenings from 5:30 to 9:30, so it'd be outside the scope of the school day. But obviously, we don't want to, damage the equipment or anything like that. We want a good return on investment from what we're hearing from industry, that they need qualified employees. Each class is roughly going to be about $3,500. We're hoping with the attendance in the class that any maintenance needed on the machines would be, taken out of that pool of money. So, but again, I'll do whatever the school board wants.
I was gonna keep quiet here, but I think I better not. You said you had 6 students in the chemical engineers, right?
Chemical operator class, yes.
Chemical, and we paid 2 teachers?
They're part-time instructors. They don't
Yeah.
teach at the same time. We did 2 to, because of COVID, we wanted to diversify the instructors. So we wanted to have both our teachers trained, but not have them teach at the same time. So our break even was 4 students. We had 6. So we, I think we made a little bit of money there. Obviously, we want a fuller class, but with everything going on, having being social distance, everything else, we want to be a little bit conservative starting out.
So how many of them students passed or got a certificate?
All 6 had passed, yes.
Okay, when's the next class gonna be?
April 5th,
In chemical engineering?
chemical operator class, yes.
April 5th, okay, and the same time that starting welding?
That's what our plan was, is starting a welding class along with a heavy equipment. Next week,
Well-
like I said, the NIMS certification class has started. We have 11 students there. Our manufacturing partners in Washington County, the Appalachia of Ohio Manufacturing Coalition, said that there's 40 openings right now for NIMS certified CNC operators. So we'll be a direct to hire program there. So we're excited about that one as well.
Well, I see here, tonight you went to hire teachers. Well, how many people do we have signed up for the welding class tonight?
We don't have anybody signed up as of now. We want to advertise, get everybody sign up by April 5th. But to advertise and to move forward with the program, we need to make sure we have an instructor. So that's why I'm bringing it to the board this early.
Well, in the past, when we had, some adults come in when, they lost their jobs at coal mines and all that, we let our teachers be instructors and not give them the chance.
Oh, yeah, sure. We definitely, just like the chemical operator, we went in-house for that. For my conversations, and it could change, but my conversations with the current instructors, they're not open to teaching in the evenings. So that's why I'm going to the board, asking for some assistance outside. Now, once we post a job, they could apply and get the job. I just, right now, that's my understanding.
So you're saying we're gonna post a job and hire people, and we still don't have anyone in the classes?
Well, they won't get paid unless they have a class. So if we don't have the amount of students to break even, we won't be able to have the class. They're not going to be a full-time employee. They're going to be a part-time hourly employee. And if we don't hit that 4-person mark, then we won't be able to have the class. But to advertise the class, I need to have an instructor, at least approved, if that makes sense.
I called Mark earlier today and didn't get a reply, but I just got a reply. And he said, you are correct. He said he tried to talk, but for some reason he's not hooked up. But I know for a fact that he told us it would be for the kids only, the equipment.
Okay. We'll check this
So I
out.
found the
He
minutes,
sent
it
me a
was in
text.
September 12th of 2018,
Yeah, and he told me I am
and I'll
correct.
send that recording.
Thanks, Connie, Jerry, Mark. All right.
Connie, I think there was actually 2 meetings, because we did the initial purchase and then we bought some additional.
There was 3 different meetings,
Okay.
but the initial, when I think it was brought to the board, was September, but I'll
Okay.
double check.
All right.
Then we added on, then we ended up buying a truck and trailer, I think, and
Yeah, that was later, way
Yeah.
later.
But I think the initial was 2000, I think the one I have is the initial, but I'll
that's
double
when
check.
I asked him the question.
Right, I'll double
The
check.
initial.
All right. Well, let's move on. Anything else, Mr. Rubel?
No, that's it. Thank you.
All right. Next.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rubel. Linda, anything?
Yeah, I'll be quick. Rick Stewart from the OFCC visited River this past week to measure some of the pipes on that LG HVAC system. And he's trying to get LG back to the table to help either fix that system or we would bid out for a new one. And we'd be part of a lawsuit to recoup some of the money that we lost on that. The other thing is those CTE 26s for renewals of CTE courses. Those are processed and in. They're due March 1st. That's for ag and also for health. And then we're working on 3 different grants right now with ARC that are all due the first part of April. So, and then the Lieutenant Governor was there at Swiss Hills for the telehealth project. That ended phase 1 and started phase 2. Phase 2 is that $500,000 grant for expanding the broadband and infrastructure. But that's it for now.
Is Mr. Joris going to give us a update here in a minute? I know he was in our building and grounds meeting.
Yes, I will be calling on him here soon.
All right, thank you. He can add to hers. Okay.
All right, well, actually, we'll just go to Mr. Joris right now if he's out there.
Mr. Joris,
He was out here. Saw him earlier.
we got him quarantined in the hall.
I'm in the corner.
Or in the corner. Hey, Mr. Joris. Yeah, report for us, and I got some questions.
Okay, the one thing I wanted to, is on the agenda tonight, is to talk about building, storage buildings at 5 locations. The district, Woodsfield, Rose Central, will share 1, Skyview, Bellsville, River High School, River Elementary will share 1, Powhatan. There are 20 by 24 storage buildings. Basically, they're metal. I've got pricing, got an updated price recently this week, and it's even lower yet. So
Swiss Hills will construct the buildings, so no labor cost. Basically, we think that we can put up all 5 of these buildings for a little over $50,000. They will be used strictly for storage. I also, in the brochure, I took some pictures of basically a couple of the buildings that we've got. Air handler rooms, stuff full of stuff, hallways, stuff full of stuff. This would be an opportunity to where we can put this in. All the buildings will be the same size. Some people wanted much larger, but I think it's better off to keep it all one size. One garage door, one man door. What Sills is going to do. The other thing that Linda was talking about was the LG stuff at River. Like she said, I believe that they're going to come back, try to get LG to come back in. We're still troubleshooting that. We're working. We got issues with compressors down there right now. I got 2 compressors on order to replace them out. So long term, we will have to do something with that building, whether it's stay with LG, go with a different setup. But we will have to do something at some point in time. We keep it running right now.
I enlightened the rest of the board, maybe you guys have questions over our building and grounds meeting the other night.
Yes, sir.
Over the lawsuit over that, and I was asked, we don't know when we'll hear anything from it, do we?
No.
Okay. And then, also over the LED lighting, want to upgrade in the schools. We could do that in 2 phases. I talked to Rob after our meeting. But before we do that, the buildings and grounds, Jerry and all that stuff, we'd like to get the treasurer and the financial committee, anything before we do this, to give us the financial report, what we can do.
They, the company sent a proposal, we split it out, so we can do that probably rather quickly, and probably look at the next meeting, next monthly board meeting, and try to move forward with that. Because that's going to be a summer project, the lighting and that will be a summer project anyway. So I think we've got enough time to react, and financially, if we're going to be able to do it, that makes sense. Long term, I think the investments, it's a good investment just for the power consumption itself.
Which I don't know if the rest of the board members got it or not, but I think we ought to get it to them, like what the savings will be a year.
Okay. I think Linda
texted to us, and maybe if we can run it off and give it to the rest of the board members.
Yeah, I can send that to Connie, and, well, it seems Connie's got it, but I'll resend it. She can send it out to everybody.
Yeah.
Was it in the report from Train?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just
Okay.
so
You guys not have that from the other day?
I got it from the other day. We do, but
Okay.
I don't think the rest of the board members,
Okay.
because the buildings and grounds, Jerry and I was there, but
Well, what's the, I don't know about the lawsuit.
It's like that.
over, can you explain to her over the systems over the
So
lawsuit?
basically, Train Command did a study, engineering study on energy consumption. Hardly any building, Swiss Hill's the only building that has LED lighting.
Oh.
You have a
Minimal out there, that's not all that.
Yeah, no, not over the lighting system, they understand. Over the systems of Powhatan River, the lawsuits, different districts
all
have.
the lawsuits, yeah. Well, basically, the lawsuit that Mr. Connor's trying to go after is working with School Facilities Commission, is going after LG. There's, I think, 5 other districts that they also have issues with. So they're trying to work with the High Attorney General to go after LG.
LG's a company that.
Yeah, LG basically, there's one up around Cambridge that they're working with now. LG has come in, they've made recommendations, but the school district themselves has paid for some of these recommendations to try to get the unit running properly. Too early to tell on that, but they did say that 2 of the districts in that meeting, 2 of the districts have basically eliminated LG and went with something else. I don't know if they got any money out of LG for that, but I do know that that's what, the second meeting we had last Friday, that's what they said.
we was kind of waiting on that lawsuit to see before we do anything. It's like $8.8 million. And if Jason was on here, he'd tell you, they haven't worked since they put it in 2015.
Right.
And if Mark Ruggs on here, where the basketball players dress, it's cold down that area. They keep robbing parts off of it.
Well, I've been here roughly 6 months, and one of the maintenance techs that we have probably spends 85 to 90% of his time strictly at River, strictly on heating and air.
I've got a lot of problems too.
Yeah, that's the same system.
I'm glad we're pursuing it.
Thank you, Mr. George.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joris. I will elaborate on what Mr. Joris was talking about all of our campuses in need of storage units. That is a big need, and I know our principals would definitely appreciate anything we could do to help them with storage on their campuses. So that is a definite need for all of our buildings. All right, next up, Larry, I see you out there. You have anything, Mr. Kozlik?
Yes, well, a couple items here for the board. The first one, it's on the attachments there, but I do have a handout here. The first one is the public parent meeting that's scheduled for next Tuesday, and that's through the OEC, the Office of Exceptional Children. And this is pertaining to our Blue Sky program that we have through the Ohio Valley ESC. So this review, this is one of the first things they start to do in that process. And we are being reviewed all of next week for this process of the Blue Sky program. And it's dealing with special education because we had students that are special needs that were involved in the program. We still have a few, but this meeting is primarily going to talk to parents. It's going to ask parents if they have any comments. But you can see that it is next Tuesday at 5 o'clock, and it's virtual. So parents, I believe, need to contact Andy Brooks to get the link. And that they can link in at that time next Tuesday.
Well, Larry, I got a question.
Yeah.
What if some people can't get the link or get on? What do we do now?
They just told us, put this out there. I had to get it out to every parent that has special needs in the district.
Yeah.
And I did that through the teachers. They sent it out to dojos. They sent it out through all their virtual means. Yeah, and I'm sure there's going to be some out there.
Yes.
That
I'll
can't
probably
get
be
it.
one of them.
And then we also put it on the district website. But again, you'll have to get some type of link from somebody, maybe they could hook up.
I think Mr.
Andy,
Brooks.
yeah, go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, so thank you. So I had a meeting this morning with the Office for Exceptional Children, their team that will be doing the review. For families who cannot connect, be providing each district representative. So Larry, you would receive the PowerPoint that they will provide. I will also receive that as well. And so they can be sent the information, and then they have, I think it's 30 days after the meeting that they can respond in writing, that if they have any comments, about the services or the provisions that they've been provided through Blue Sky Virtual Academy, then they can do that in writing. If anyone calls my office and says that they'd like to participate, but they don't have connectivity, we can also work with them to see if there's a location that we could find where they could participate.
Okay, very good. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Okay, so any other questions over that one?
No, sir.
The second item I have is dealing with our special education annual rating that we get from the Office of Exceptional Children and ODE. It's a yearly report that they look at our indicators that to make sure we're compliant in all of these areas. And you can see right at the top there, the 2020 rating is that we do meet requirements. So we are good, as far as that. We have met requirements for the last 6 years, I believe. But if you focus on the bottom right, where it says performance on results indicators, they base this on a total number of points. And we received 4 points on everything on the left, but starting with indicator 3C, the math proficiency rate, we did not get that target. We missed it, so they gave us 3 points instead of 4, but we missed the target by 0.69%. And that is 2 students. If we would have had 2 more students that would have passed, then we would have been meeting the target. We would have got the perfect 4.0 score. Instead, we got a 3.83, which still falls in the category meets requirements. And just to focus in on the next one down, the indicator 3C, the reading proficiency, this one, you can see we did meet, so we got 4 points. We went over, we were 29.75. Just to give you an idea, back in 2019, we were 26. The year before that, I believe we were just below the targets. So we have moved up in that respect. And then the third one down, the third grade reading proficiency, you can see that we really did well with that. The result was 61.8%, and our target was only 33. So, and I think this goes back to a lot of our teachers and our DLTs and Mrs. Bohatch's efforts with the reading proficiency of all the students, kindergarten all the way through third grade when they have to take this test. So I think it's starting to show up now in some of our reports that we're getting, because that one, I believe, was way down a few years back, 6, 7 years ago. I don't even think we got to that target. You can see we are moving up in the right direction, and the one that we're still focused on is the math proficiency rate. But the year before, on 2019, we were 23.73. So we increased by over 5% for the last year. So that's a plus. And again, we're in pretty good standing with that. So any questions over that report? I know that's one we get generally, we look forward to getting, and we have no compliance issues with that report. So we've met the requirements. Thank you there. Okay, one other item I have. I know I've been talking to Mr. Caldwell about this, and Rob, feel free to chime in too. I also have Mr. Ishii here, but we were looking at the position, an intervention specialist at Woodsfield Elementary. Last year, we didn't post the position because we didn't have the numbers there. And right now, we are finding we're getting more and more students that are coming into the district. And I try to explain in the email. I know these emails get buried a lot of times, and we don't even can find them. But we would like to add a intervention specialist at Woodsfield Elementary to replace the one that was there last year. We didn't fill it at the beginning of the year. So the reason we're doing this, or would like to do it, is because we've had an influx of students in the lower grades that are severely disabled, and they are in Mrs. Amanda Blackstone's classroom. There's 10 students in there now. And I did an observation last week, and I went in there, and it was challenging. I'm not sure how they do it every day. So what we'd like to do is take some of those students, move them to the middle grades, and then the other teacher would be in the upper grade. So we'd have 3 sections or 3 grade levels for the intervention specialist. So it would be one that is a probably moderate to intense would be one that we would be looking for, but it would be an additional intervention specialist, but it's a replacement because we're not really adding an FTE. I don't know, Mr. Ishii, if you want to say anything, if I missed anything about that, feel free to jump in.
No, 100%. It's with 10 students, and we do have several adults already in the classroom, but it's still with their high needs. Like Mr. Pollock said, the numbers may not have been there over the summer, but they definitely are there now. I think we can justify an additional FTE, and I think it'll be better for not just the kids from Ms. Blackstone's room, but even all the way up through. It'll benefits all the way up through, 8th grade.
The day I was there, there were actually the behavior specialist and the BCBA were both in that room working with students, because it was, there were other adults in there too, and they were just a handful. But, we just had, what, 3 new ones, or, yeah,
Three new ones.
two children that are albinos that have vision problems, and 1 severe autism. So, but they were move-ins.
Plus, Mr. Kozlik, this is also not a new FTE. It's just one that we've never filled.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, great.
No, but I understand they do need it, because Jerry and I, one day, Buildings and Grounds was in there, and, the little one, you had to bring you in, help
Yeah.
out with them.
Yeah,
But they-
he's a newer student too. He came earlier this fall, but he's a newer one as well.
Yeah, but the newer ones you had, how you used to take care of, all that room,
Mhm.
because it didn't have enough to take care of, you just want to, it just put tears in my eyes to see how little boy was doing with you guys, you know.
I don't think you realize how many hats Mr. Ishii wears in the,
Yeah.
very amazing.
No, I'm not,
Every time I go out there,
Yeah.
you amaze
No,
me.
but I'm just
Things
saying,
work. I was thinking about the
I
hallways.
understand that,
Clear them
but
out.
that
He'll
little
probably
boy,
get another
he had a rough
classroom
life.
up there. He's amazing. That's good. He really does some
Man.
wonderful things out there.
If people just realize going to these schools to see what some of these students go
Yeah,
through,
right.
trying to educate them, you know, I think everyone change their mind, you know.
Well, we've had 4 this year that were added to that class,
Yeah,
and it began with 6, I think 6 or
Correct.
7.
yeah.
So, and they were severe ones, so
Yeah.
that's the reason.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Sure. Okay, Mr. Hallwell, I'm all done.
All right, thanks,
Thank
Mr. Kozlik. Mr. Clutter, you have anything?
No, Mr. Caldwell, everything's fine here right now. Haven't been on a whole lot of miles here lately. Things have been just watching the snow fly, so everything's good here right now. Thank you.
All right, thanks. I know you and I have had some early morning conversations, that's for sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, we have. Early morning, late nights, yes.
All right, Mrs. Holland, anything?
Yeah, I would like to talk about a recommendation to temporarily postpone the posting and hiring of a cook at River. Can I do that now?
Mrs. Holland, we's gonna do that anyhow.
Okay, so you want to wait or do it now?
Yeah, there's no use. I think it'll be a mute decision here in a minute.
Okay.
All right. Anything else, Mrs. Holland?
No, I do not have anything else at this time.
All right, thank you. All right, Mrs. Bohatch, you're up.
If Tess could allow Joyce to have control over, to share her screen.
Joy, I'm going to give you access to being the host so you can share your screen. Please don't disconnect. Make me the host back before you exit so we don't close the meeting.
Yes, ma'am, I can do that. Thank you.
While Joy's sharing her screen, I would like to take a moment to introduce Joy Edgel. She is our Director of Preschool Services. Ann Bowen is on the line as well. She's going to be helping with the presentation. Mr. Ishii and Mrs. Bohatch also have parts. And what they want to talk to you tonight about is the Beginnings Preschool, and then just a discussion about expansion. There is a lot of interest right now in expanding the preschool services. So they just want to do a high-level discussion with the board about the this whole concept and this idea. Joy, it's yours.
Great. Thank you, Andy. Can everybody in the room there see the presentation now, Jen?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Let me know if there's any tech issues on your end, because I can't see your room anymore. Thank you for time tonight, Board of Education. We really appreciate being here with you. And tonight we just want to talk about the foundation of preschool. and what that looks like currently in Switzerland, and then what it could look like with some expansion ideas on the table. So we're going to start, first of all, with myself and Anne. Sorry here, I'm having a little bit. So as Andy said, I am Joy Edgel, and I am the Director of Preschool Services for all of our sites within Bright Beginnings. And that stretches through 4 counties at this time. Ann Bowen is your preschool supervisor, and we work closely together to oversee everything with preschool in your district. We also work closely with your admin teams and with your elementary school age teams to ensure that we are helping with that transition to kindergarten. Anne, are you ready? We're going to start with just a little bit of the history of preschool and how we started.
I am. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm Ann Bowen. I've been your preschool supervisor for the past 7 years in the district. We just kind of, like Joy said, we wanted to start out, just talk a little bit about the history. So in 1989, the state of Ohio established funding for FAPE, a free and appropriate public education, for any preschool student between the ages of 3 and 5 years old that have been identified with having a disability. As a result of that funding, in 1999, the Ohio Valley Educational Service Center, we opened Bright Beginnings Preschool. It was initially founded with 2 teachers, Marian Pachuta and Molly Fender, and we had 20 students that we provided services to in Guernsey County. We've moved from our small roots there to where currently in 2021, we operate 19 preschool classrooms in 8 different school districts in 4 counties, all located in southeastern Ohio. In your specific school district, we actually have 5 classrooms. 1 classroom is housed in each elementary school building in your district. All of those classrooms are taught by a general education preschool teacher. And we do bring in, OT, PT, speech, and itinerant teachers to provide any special education needs. This is the 3rd year that our elementary schools have had those preschool classrooms located inside. Do you have any questions about that? So one of the questions that we've been approached to is, why is a preschool expansion is necessary? In the 7 years I've done this job, there has been such an increase in the demands for K-3 literacy skills. Those K-3 literacy skills build upon and affect children as they get into high school and beyond. As there's been more demands in K-3, increased demands have trickled down to preschool. Preschool is kind of like the new kindergarten. Things we're doing in preschool now, they were kindergarten skills 10, 15 years ago. So we feel very strongly about helping all children become prepared for kindergarten. The Ohio Valley Educational Service Center received the Comprehensive Literacy State Development Grant through the Ohio Department of Education. As a result of that grant, we've done a lot of research, and we've been able to review research from some of the most famous people in the country. We're working closely with Dr. Laura Justice currently. One thing we've noticed about that research is that the 2 best predictors of reading success for a student are alphabet knowledge and phonemic awareness. We've been able to address that by using evidence-based curriculum. We use currently the creative curriculum for preschool, and we use the preschool version of the Haggerty Phonological Awareness Curriculum. That is a curriculum that starts in preschool, and then this current school year, your K-1-2 staff are also using the Haggerty for primary grades. Something else we've been able to do as a result of our evidence-based curriculums is improve literacy rates and overall kindergarten readiness skills for all students across all subject areas. One way we've been able to do that, and we've been studying this, and we work closely with Jennifer, and Jennifer's going to go into more detail about this on the next slide. But there's kindergarten readiness assessment data that does show Bright Beginnings preschool students that attend preschool 2 days a week are outperforming other students that have not had that access on the kindergarten readiness assessment. We've shown steady gains over the past couple years, and by possibly having students in 2 days a week, 4 days a week, we could continue to see gains and help close that gap. So we're more ready to help prepare the students when they enter kindergarten. They're ready to learn, they know their routine, and they're ready to get going. This last bullet is something that's very near and dear to my heart. I work in the day-to-day operation in the district, but I also do special education for preschool. Something that we're very proud of is that any student that attends one of our preschool classes has access to tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 interventions to address delays in possible pre-academic skills, speech functioning, fine motor, gross motor skills, their adaptive or social emotional skills. This is huge. We have a partnership with our OTs, our PTs, our speech therapists, and intervention specialists. What this is doing is some of these kiddos come to preschool and they just need a little boost. They're just a little bit behind, but they do not need access to a full special education referral. We're able to provide these students the help they need to become age appropriate without initiating that special education referral. This is very important because from preschool, as students move up to school age, we're able to keep those special education numbers down so the staff are truly serving the students that need the services the most.
Exactly. And so it's increased literacy and increased interventions for lower special ed numbers later is the goal with that piece.
Yeah.
And we truly wanted to show you some data directly related to your district. So we worked with your admin team, specifically Jennifer, who's been wonderful to collaborate with, to put some graphs together on what your kindergarten readiness assessment scores look like at this point with Bright Beginning students compared to other students. Jennifer, are you on there and available?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so your slides are up if you want to talk a little bit about current second grade down to current K.
And board members, you have this in front of you as well, so if you want to see it a closer view, the information is there. What you see is the kindergarten readiness scores for our current second, first, and kindergarten students. Demonstrating is where we want them to be, demonstrating kindergarten readiness at the beginning of the kindergarten year, and that's indicated in green. Approaching in yellow, and emerging is in red, and red is where we really don't want them to be. But if you look at the current second grade, that would be the first box on the left. Our current second grade students are divided into those who attended Bright Beginnings and those who attended or did not attend any preschool. And you'll notice that demonstrating in our current second graders was 40% versus 60% ready. As we continue to implement, and that was the first year we had preschool in all 5 buildings. As we move to the first graders this year, you'll notice that we start to pull apart, and those students that were kindergarten ready who attended Bright Beginnings are now at 62% kindergarten ready versus all the other students that were at 38%. And if you look at the other end of that graph, you can see an even bigger increase in between the kids that were emerging in Bright Beginnings and those who did not attend Bright Beginnings, and how huge that portion is, 61% that were not ready for preschool or kindergarten ready. And then the following column, this is where we really see growth in the preschool system that we have currently. And the following indicates our current kindergarten that attended Bright Beginnings. And you'll see now that 83% of the entire kindergarten group that were Bright Beginnings were kindergarten ready versus only 17% of those other students that were kindergarten ready. And the exact opposite has happened in the emerging area, where we have 66% of students that weren't ready. Now, when we look at that as a total enrollment of our kindergarten and put those numbers together, we only have 22% of our entire kindergarten that was ready this year, KRA, kindergarten ready. But of that 22% of the entire population, 83% of that was our Bright Beginnings students. So I think that speaks volumes on how much the Bright Beginnings program has done for us. And I'm going to turn it back over. Before I go on, does anybody have any other questions about the graph? Okay, I'm I'm going to turn it back over to Joy.
Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, and I just wanted to piggyback on what you said. By that increase, I think can really be attested to our leadership working with all staff, particularly your staff, in fidelity of curriculum and fidelity of implementation of what we are doing. So when you look at things like the Hegarty and the other phonemic awareness pieces we're adding in, we're really working and training our staff to make sure those are implemented correctly and with fidelity. So I think that's why you continue to see the increase year after year.
And Joy, may I add, we were very excited to see that data for this year's current kindergarten class because they stopped attending face-to-face in March.
Yes. Yep. It was virtual from March till May. Thank you, Anne, for adding that. So we also wanted to share some success of a district who already has a model of preschool expansion. And Noble Local, 7 years ago, opened their first preschool classroom. Within a couple years, they added a few more. And then 3 years ago, they expanded to 6 preschool classrooms within their elementary school for their district. And their goal with doing that was to increase their literacy in K to 3 was one goal. So they invited anybody in that could and enrolled them in kindergarten. This increased enrollment for their own students, but they also gained enrollment of students from outside their district. Currently, they enroll 85% of their incoming kindergarten class within their own preschool classrooms. Having done this for 3 years, they are now seeing an increase of 80% of their K to 3 students on track in reading proficiency. That's about the top 5% of the state. So they began this model of K readiness classrooms offering that 4-day-a-week program 3 years ago, and they're already seeing the effects in their K3. And if you speak with their curriculum director or their superintendent, who would be glad to talk with any of you, they will tell you that they expect that to completely trickle up to the other end, the 12th grade end, as kids are more prepared all the way through. So they have really seen their investment with their expansion, not only financially by gaining some of that money back with open enrollment students, but also academically across the board. So what could this look like for Noble Local? We've really been working with Jennifer and some members of your admin team to put together some proposals. And these are simply ideas from us that we think may benefit your district. The administration has shared that rooms are immediately available at Bellsville and Powhatan and could be available at Woodsfield. We've worked with Chantel and Josh to talk about that prospect. So if you looked at adding 3 kindergarten readiness classrooms, placing one potentially at Bellsville, Powhatan, and Woodsfield, with River and Skyview kids being bused to specific elementaries, your approximate increase for staffing would be about $294,000. That's an estimate based on years of experience, insurance, retirement, all things that a teacher would take. But that would be a good place to start and see what your enrollment is and interest is in the K-ready classrooms. We also talked about if you followed the model of putting one at all 5 elementaries and having that opportunity at each elementary school, your approximate increase for preschool staffing would be $490,000 for those 5 additional classrooms. The other cost incurred would be a one-time cost of things like furniture and supplies. Again, these are just ideas that we brainstormed and we wanted to bring to you to give you some idea. We are flexible with how this expansion could start and are interested in hearing your ideas also. What questions do you have so far about any of these that we have presented?
I got one. How many preschool students did we turned away last year? A good bit, wasn't it?
Yes, good question. Yeah, so this year enrollment is down a little bit everywhere due to COVID, but last year you had 14 on the waiting list.
14. Yeah, but I thought there was more than that when I was there. Okay. But I agree with this. You know, they always said you got to pour a good footer before you build a good house on there for it. And that's where we're going to start, because I do see we're good, but I'd rather see it started with all 5 instead of busting the free school. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I heard about portable buildings and that, and that's gonna ruin our schools, you know, put the portable building. But surely, there's some places we could lease to put this.
That's one of the things that we tossed around as we were brainstorming, is that there are a couple campuses that really don't have room.
Yeah.
And so is there a space that we could lease, and would the board be interested in that? And that would be a whole additional set of costs from the staffing and supplies, but it's definitely something that if you wanted to consider that,
Yeah.
we could look
We
at.
got, we got all new schools, and I'll tell you, I was on here when we put the portables at Swiss Hills and how bad they look there, you know, only gonna be temporary, and then that fell through. But I cannot see putting in temporary or lease them. I'd rather lease a building somewhere until we get built onto these schools, you know.
Yeah. And we can look at all those options for you. We have explored lightly some cost of outside areas. There's pros and cons with each. You know, we do have to have them licensed and certified to make sure we're okay. There's also the benefit of when you're in building, you can collaborate much easier with your classroom staff, but we can do it either way, depending on what the board would like.
Yeah, but that's just me speaking. I'm only one member.
Exactly. Are there other questions or thoughts that others have?
Yeah, you said you had 14 on the waiting list, but did some of the students just go 2 days a week? Where are you looking at this for the students to go 4 days a week?
So, Bev, I believe,
Go ahead, Ann.
I can't see faces, sorry.
I know, me neither.
So, currently, our students attend preschool 2 days a week. We have some students that are receiving special education services that do attend 4. Currently, the 4-day a week is based upon need. What we're proposing is a kindergarten readiness classroom that would be 4 days a week, where your students would go there 4 days a week their year prior to entering kindergarten. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I was wondering, do you know how many students we have, like, that's 2 days a week that would go, you know, that we could service 4 days a week that don't qualify for 4 days right now?
So I can tell you this, I can't project our current enrollment, but if we look, or for next year's enrollment, but if we look at our current enrollment right now, out of all the students that we are serving in face-to-face classrooms or virtually, we have 73 students that are going to move on to kindergarten, and we have approximately 30 students that are going to return to preschool for another year. So the majority of our students we're serving right now are eligible.
Okay.
And one of the goals with this project would be the marketing piece of it, of bringing in students that are not our students yet. So students that have not had preschool, or maybe students that even have had to attend other areas, bringing them into these classrooms so that they are serviced through our curriculums and in your buildings before they reach kindergarten. So that would be one of the goals.
So basically, the expansion is just, we're saying that the preschool through the ESC is doing a great job. So we want to be able to provide that service for more kids.
For more kids and more days a week.
And for kindergarten, the kindergarten readiness class would be just that class of those kids getting ready to go to kindergarten the next year.
They would have twice as much instruction and preparedness to be ready for kindergarten when they come in.
Because I know the kids have been turned away, they went elsewhere compared to the kids that went out there. Well, I went to Skyview, this is where some of them, and what these kids at Skyview was way ahead of what these kids were, because they're teaching to what, you know.
Our curriculum.
Yeah, our curriculum.
Well, and we've lost some of our Skyview preschools to Noble.
Yeah,
So,
we did, that's why.
and they may not come back after that, so we want to keep them.
Right, to Powhatan also to Shadyside.
I'm concerned about the space too, because we heard the presentation that was awful. How crowded they are and doubled up. I mean, if there's a room, they should get undoubled if they can. I know I'm simplifying it, but I don't want to expand the preschool and have our older kids still crammed in.
If I may.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can speak about this as my building's pretty full. and some of the solutions that we've talked about in our building, to open up the space for preschool. I've spoken to the teachers, and we feel like, you know, at least temporarily, it's worth the cost of, you know, doubling teachers up to ensure that we have a better, you know, a more prepared kindergarten class, and because we think that's gonna trickle, like Mrs. Bodash said, all the way up through. So, you know,
Benefit in the future.
that's right. Teachers are on board doing that. Staff's on board doing it. We think it's important enough. And then when we look at other schools that have done it, like Noble, for example, and the turnaround that they've had, not just academically, but also financially, by keeping kids from open enrolling elsewhere and also attracting kids from other districts. I mean, to me anyway, it's an easy decision. I know you guys are faced with a lot of difficult ones, but I don't know if this is one of them.
Just like the Brown Center or something, right? There's some place in town we could rent.
So Joy talked about this a little bit. One of the things that I think makes Bright Beginnings, at least at Woodfield, so, you know, successful is that their preschool teachers attend most years, not this year with COVID, but most years they attend our teacher-based team meetings, and there's collaboration. For example, the Hegarty program, Woodfield was able to get ahead of the rest of the district on that because of being exposed to it through the ESC program. They had started it a year before us, and our intervention specialists got wind of it, and we started using it in our intervention groups before anyone else did. So that would be my argument for not having it housed elsewhere. I would rather have it in-house. On top of that collaboration, I'm kind of particular and competitive myself, so I like to, you know, stay up to date on everything that's going on in the preschool so that I know what our kids are going to be able to do and not be able to do as kindergartners, and our teams can work on that.
But I think again, you're going to make it work. Like
we're going to make it work. Yeah, we're going to make it work.
Well, I believe you.
Yeah, we got Chantel giving up her office and things like that.
You're amazing.
Yeah.
She does now.
We get her forage on?
480 square storage building, but yet I got freed up 3 hallways and I can do 3 classes.
Yeah.
Well, I think part of that is the consolidation of teachers is really not gonna affect
Can we
students.
get
Yeah.
a forage on for an office?
Because,
It's more of an inconvenience on the adults, and you know, our building feels like if the adults have taken on certain inconveniences, at least for the time being, to benefit the kids, yeah, we're
I'm
willing
glad
to
you
do that.
qualified that, because I'm thinking, you know, if my kid is a 5th grader,
Yeah.
that's great for the preschool coming in, but my kid is still, you know, doubled up in the noise and.
So actually, the way we've got it solved, or,
Okay.
you know, possible solution would be, again, for the kids to, you know, the kids wouldn't see any changes, major changes, except for maybe our tag. We use a library that we would convert to a classroom. But again, that's 2 days a week. Other than that, no other classroom students would see any change to the classroom or number of kids in each room that they see currently.
I have the River Elementary Principal, Eric James, on the phone. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. You wanna go ahead and speak?
Yes, please. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, pretty well.
Kinda.
Okay, I'm sorry, I got a dog in the background, but I just wanted to kind of throw River sales pitch at this. If there's any possible way that, you know, we can keep our kindergarten readiness to 4 and 5-year-olds in our building, we'd really like to do that to work in conjunction with our kindergarten teachers. The other thing I was thinking is to have the lower level kids possibly, you know, doing some kind of lease at the Hannibal Professional Building. That way we can kind of keep all our kids in that one area like Mr. Ish was talking about he wants to do at Woodfield. Also at River, you know, we're using the Hegarty and everything like that in our K-3 programs right now and seeing tremendous success. And we figure if we could incorporate that with the younger age groups, which Mrs. Bowen and what those other preschool people are doing with their various locations, we think we can be pretty successful with it as well. So we have a plan in play. It's just a question of what what the board decides. I just wanted to throw our 5 cents in as well.
That IC Center is a good idea, Mr. James. That's a good idea. You're close there.
Yeah, it's in close proximity, and you know, obviously they have the room.
Yeah.
You know, there's some different things that need to get worked out, some kinks, but I think we can make it work.
Mr. James, would you be able to provide lunches for them from the grade school?
Listen, Mr. Kozlik, if I have to throw them in the back of my truck and take them over, I'll take care of it.
And did you get that recorded?
I did. I have that in writing now, Mr. James.
I'm a team player. I'm a team player we'll get it done.
Ain't going back now.
They got the big schools and they know how to implement.
We heard him.
I think they take lessons from each other. Yeah,
All right, I don't want to hold anybody up, but I appreciate everybody's time and, thank you.
And I just want to clarify, just to make sure we're all on the same page, with the additional classrooms, the model we're proposing is that all of those additional classrooms will be kindergarten readiness, which means the students attend 4 days a week and it's the same class every day. Your other classrooms would stay the same, where there is a 2-day-a-week offering 2 different times a week, a Monday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Friday, and a Tuesday, Thursday. Just to make sure that part is clear.
So would that be the students that's not going to kindergarten next year, like the ones that's 2 years away?
Exactly. They're 3 and the 4-year-olds. Yes, ma'am.
So
one other thing that we wanted to talk about this evening is tuition. Preschool tuition can be challenging for some families to afford. And we wanted to explain how our tuition currently works and some things we've discussed with your admin team. So full monthly tuition at this point for a family is $140 per month for 2 days a week. In our other districts where we've expanded to K-readiness classrooms, we have not increased that cost with 4 days a week. So it would still remain $140. Another option to gain more of those kindergarten readiness students is that you could provide those classrooms free to those students, so that year before kindergarten, those classrooms and that instruction could be free to your kindergarten readiness students. That's just one option. We do operate a sliding fee scale, so students have the option that they can get reduced fees and even free fees. Tuition at this point returns directly to your district as a credit to your preschool cost. So to give you a little bit of an idea what that looks like, in 2020, with COVID, you had approximately a $51,000 credit at the end of the year from tuition collected. A typical year for Switzerland, that would be about $75,000 collected. I broke down what your students are currently paying on the screen. So you have 92 students total. Right now, 50% of them are full pay. So that would bring in about $57,000, a little bit over that. 45% are free, either based on state funding or household income. And then you do have some that are about 5% who are on the sliding fee scale. So that would bring in about $3,000 more. So the total tuition estimate for this year would be around $61,000 that would be applied to your bill at the end of the year. So really what the district would need to decide is, do you want to hold tuition the same? If our goal is to bring in as many K-ready students as possible, do we want to have a hook, such as the district would offer the K-readiness class for free? And then that would just simply be not that small credit that comes off your preschool cost. So that was something else that we wanted to make sure you understood and had on your plate as you were making this decision. Any questions about that, or what else tuition looks like? I'm assuming you all can still hear me, because I can't hear anybody there.
Go ahead, Jerry, ask your
I
question.
wanted to know if there's any grant money available, federal or state.
Wonderful question. Yeah. So if you look down at the 45% where it says ECE funded, that is the Early Childhood Education Grant, which Switzerland has for 4 of its 5 buildings. And 29 of your students already received that. So it is a set amount from the state that can be applied to your classrooms and your parapros, your teachers, things within the classroom where those students attend. Currently, we have the max number of spots filled that we can.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Do we have any way to project the numbers that are coming?
And go ahead, Ann. I saw you open.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to project right now. We're thinking that we probably will have a higher enrollment just due to families coming back with COVID going away. We had quite a few students withdraw because they were fearful of COVID this school year. We're slowly seeing kiddos come back to preschool because they're feeling that COVID's not as severe as it was. So we actually are enrolling students currently in preschool. You know, if you decide to go the route where you'd like us to open 3 or 5 of the kindergarten readiness rooms, we would obviously market it and work closely with the building principals on enrollment.
Your average enrollment over the past 3 years has been 125 to 130 students, somewhere in between there. Honestly, we're projecting at least 130, maybe more, but we won't have solid numbers till probably late June, early July. And then even then, just like school age, we get more applications throughout July and August too. Okay. We did ask Mr. Ishii to join us tonight because he has been so supportive of the preschool program. And he's been supported from 2 perspectives, the parent and the administrator. So Josh, if you're ready there, if you will share your insight a little bit more on preschool and what that means to you from both perspectives.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Ms. Smith, did you have something?
I just wanted to, I heard your insight about the preschool teachers being able to collaborate with TBTs and stuff. And so I was just wondering if you did wind up doing off-site, which hopefully wouldn't be too far away, that they would still be able to collaborate. Like, we could arrange for them to continue to attend those meetings. Hopefully that would be short-term, because we're still working on expanding the building, or the...
Yeah.
Well, I think I presented at 2018, so I think at best case scenario, the expansion of the building, we're looking at a few years.
Right.
So I would prefer them to be in the building if we can make it work. Yeah, I mean, that would be my preference at Woodsfield. Now, Mr. James or other principals may have, be able to work it out a little bit differently than me, but at Woodsfield, I would prefer to have them in-house. As Joy was telling you, I have 2 perspectives, you know, kind of unique because I am the building principal, but I also have had a child come through the Bright Beginnings program at Woodsfield. And the first thing I can say is it's nice from the convenience aspect of having, you know, your child being in preschool, go to the school that they're going to attend at school age. You know, all the conveniences, for example, like my son is getting ready to be preschool age, well, his older sister's already going to be school age and attending Woodsfield. So they would attend together. They're both provided district transportation. The lunches are all there. Not only that, but they become accustomed to the routines, procedures of the building, so that when they do become school age in kindergarten, they don't have to learn all of those new procedures and routines, and they know who the staff are. They know who they're going to be greeted by at the doors. You know, same teachers basically do that every year, and they become a family, and that instills that pride where I think that's kind of what Noble's got right now. I look at Noble Local as those kids come to the preschools, which are housed inside their school age building. And they're Zeps from the get-go. So from preschool, they become Shenandoah Zeps. So whether they're from Caldwell or elsewhere, to them, they're Shenandoah. This is my school, and they end up going through, you know, the rest of their school-age career there. I can speak about my child and the kids that I've seen from Bright Beginnings in comparison to other preschools or the students that come from no preschool at all, and the behaviors that they have coming in are tremendous. So I know I talked to, and I went and visited Noble Local and had some conversations with their superintendent, and one of the things that we talked about was just how much more instructional time is gained by having the preschools, you know, in the buildings or within the district. For example, our culture camp is what we call it in kindergarten, where we teach all of our new students the rules and procedures and routines and the drills. It takes about 8 weeks for the kids to have the routine down. But at Noble Local, he told me about for the first week, kindergarten kids got it because it's not much different from their preschool. So you're saving all that time in instruction. Not that we're not instructing during those 8 weeks, but you know, time is lost on those routines. Also, I can talk about my daughter. She had some speech deficits at a young age, but because she was able to get into Bright Beginnings, she had speech therapy services and itinerant services through the ESC. And I can say, like, Miss Jones was her speech teacher and just did a phenomenal job. So my daughter, and you know, an anecdotal study is my daughter and another young girl from Bright Beginnings Preschool just took the first grade Haggerty mid-year screener and scored perfect except in 2 areas. And no other preschool, no child from another preschool or no preschool at all was able to do that. So my daughter has the fortunate, of having their mother, not me. My wife is a pretty good teacher as well. But I think the speech services that she received and was able to overcome the deficits that she had by going through this is now paying dividends for her as a kindergarten student. The other child as well didn't have speech services, but came to Bright Beginnings, had that exposure to Haggerty, and she's excelling as well. So those are just two anecdotal studies. We talked about the instilling positive attitude toward our school. I think, I touched on that. Also, the pre-math and pre-literacy skills that they're getting at Bright Beginnings, because they're collaborating with our teachers, are lending itself so the transition to kindergarten is that much easier. And believe it or not, in Mrs. Hooper's room in my building, I've got kindergarten students dividing. So it's pretty crazy just what we're able to do by exposing them to, number sense at such an early age. And while I can't speak about other preschools, I can talk about the ESC and what they're able to do and what they're beginning to do with our kids. And it's all, through play and manipulatives and stuff like that. So it's making sense to these kids before they come to kindergarten. So I can tell you also, the last thing I was going to say about on the parent perspective is that not only was my child better prepared by going through Bright Beginnings, but I was as well. I think the other parents that had children in Bright Beginnings were as well, because they were exposed to the Lexia program, which is one of our reading programs that we use. So the language that they're getting sent home and explained to by their teachers matches up with what we're doing at school age level. The Haggerty program, which we've touched on several times, they're beginning to learn the routines and go through activities with their children at home in preschool, same activities that we do in kindergarten. So, not only are we educating the students in the Bright Beginnings, but we're also educating the parents as well, preparing them to be more supportive as their kids come into kindergarten and beyond. The other slide that I'd like to touch on is from the administrator point of view. We talked about the KRA scores, which are kindergarten readiness scores. Again, speaking to Superintendent Noble Local, he kind of made a joke with me. So we were talking about our kindergarten readiness scores from Woodsfield and Noble. Well, 2 years ago, we were looking at data, and at Woodsfield Elementary, we only had 18% of our students kindergarten ready. And at Noble, they had right around 90%. So my football analogy is they're starting, basically in the red zone, going in, scoring touchdowns. We got to drive the length of the field, and hopefully score a touchdown. Or, we really have to make a big play, essentially, to get in the end zone or kick field goal. So I think, by advancing the ball, so to speak, we're going to be able to score more points, and it's going to look better on our school report card. Not only that, our kids are going to do better as they go through because our literacy is going to be so much more improved. The financial point of view, speaking to the Superintendent Noble, is they have 72 open enrolled students, and he estimates about a $1 million yield in additional funding that he feels they would have not had otherwise because of the additional funding attached to those students over, that 7-year period that keeps coming in each year. And he said it more than pays for the cost of the preschool. And I think if you look at the funding that Joy talked about as far as tuition, my recommendation is to get as many kids to come into the Bright Beginnings as we could, is that we would do something to help them out as far as tuition goes. I don't think if we're going to look at some, potential yield and extra funding off open enrollments or keeping kids here that otherwise would leave, I think that just makes sense. We also talked about the special education portion of it, and I was able to talk as a parent about my own daughter, but also those kids that are identified in preschool. There's a continuance of services as they come into school age, where in other programs, if they came from another preschool or no preschool at all, we're not going to have that. We have to go through our evaluation process and things like that, and that would just be a delay in services potentially. My daughter had no delay. She, her IEP from Bright Beginnings was able to carry over into school age, and she had continuance of services. And like I said, as a parent, I can tell you that's really been beneficial for her.
So I was at Skyview this week, and talked to one of our school psychologists who was getting ready to assess the preschool students. And she said it was thrilling to know that she has all this data collected now on what interventions have been provided already for the students. And now if she assesses a student and they qualify, they will be ready to go to be serviced right out of the gate the first day of kindergarten, rather than waiting through this whole process, which could take the entire year by the time you gather data. So it's a huge win for being able to get early interventions for those kids who truly need it as well.
And finally, as an administrator, I can tell you that Ann and I see each other, if not weekly, every other week. I feel like she's a member of the building, and we even share our calendars together, so we're scheduling conference room times around each other's meetings and things like that if we can. So I think that partnership that we have already eliminates a lot of the what-ifs. What if we expand, how's it gonna work? What if we expand, how many kids are we gonna get? What if we expand, how much is it gonna cost? What the benefits are gonna be? We know all the, for the most part, we know the answers to those questions. So I think it's a pretty safe bet as far as, what we're gonna get out of this partnership and how beneficial it could be.
Well, Ann, I don't know that they needed you and I think Josh and Jennifer have all the info.
I think they do too.
I'm just teasing. So in closing, we want to take it back to just building a strong foundation for your school district. Josh mentioned so many great things, and what sticks in my head, what he said, Mr. Leffingwell shared with him from Noble, is once you get them in and get them ingrained in preschool, they're going to stay. And I think that's your goal as a district. And I know it's our goal for you that we want to get as many of your kids in the door early, and we want them to stay and be successful all the way through 12th grade. So, increased enrollment leads to improved kindergarten readiness and on-track literacy success. Within those 3 years at Noble, they're at 80%. And I can tell you they're gunning for 100. They want all of those kiddos on track for literacy, because that is the first step. When they're on track for literacy, they're on track for 5th grade testing, and they're on track for 8th grade testing, and then your career pathways when you get to high school. So that's the first step.
By doing increased enrollment, it also helps us expand opportunities to help include the families in preparing their students for kindergarten. A big part of it, it's one of the scariest things you ever do is send your child to preschool and send your child to kindergarten. And we're able to build those relationships and have families used to working with us as a team, and that transitions over to when they enter kindergarten, so they're more prepared to work with your school age staff as a team.
Definitely. And, I heard some talk about the collaboration and what may happen to that if we would be outside of your buildings. We would love to be inside your buildings, but we understand space. But increased enrollment for you would lead to increased collaboration and support among us with your school aid staff. We also have a literacy coach that we've employed at the preschool level who is just beginning to work with teams. So that's something else that would come to your teams and benefit them in the process of increasing enrollment. Finally, I want to give a shout out to Chantal. I think she's on there. She sent this quote earlier, and I thought it just spoke volumes to this presentation. But the best way to predict your future is to create it. And I really hear, your heart for your kids there at Switzerland. And I think by building this foundation, this would be a strong start that you could offer to all of your kids, for then they could finish strong later on at the opposite end in 12th grade. By giving them that strong foundation where they're prepared at every stop along the way. So I put Ann and I's contact on this last slide again, and I will resend that to all of you at the end tonight. But what other questions are on the table, or what are you thinking that you would love for us to answer for you?
Connie, have you had a chance to look at the numbers, the money?
I emailed,
I was looking at it.
but when Jen and I talked, last week or the week before, the numbers were different. This was just shared to me right before the meeting. So the number was not the same as what I put on the forecast, because it was different. It changed. So it's kind of a midway point between the two options.
Can I speak to that for a minute, Connie?
What was that? She wants to speak to that estimate thing? Yes, please.
Yes, so the numbers came down a little bit from what I initially gave you, because when I spoke with Mr. Brooks and our treasurer, she felt like I was on the way high end of the estimate by the initial numbers she had given me. So we took it down to the middle of the road estimate. So that's why they are a little bit lower, because she felt like my estimates were too high in the beginning.
Right, so the number that I had previously is kind of in the middle of the two options that they gave you tonight. So the 3 buildings versus the 5, it's the number that I did project is kind of in the middle of that.
Okay.
That's the number. Okay.
That's probably a fair number.
Right. Because I think it was 360,000 or 360, 600 or something like that. So it's kind of in the middle of both options.
Okay.
Noble estimated about $100,000 per class. So that's what I was going before I even had Joy's numbers, and her numbers are a little bit lower than this time, but that's what he projected, about $100,000 a class.
And of course, the ongoing cost will be the staffing. The other costs should be a one-time effect, such as furniture and supplies. That should be a one-time. And then the staffing would be your continual.
And we brought the costs down because we were estimating high. We were estimating, you know, a teacher at a master's level with 10 years experience initially. But it's very rare that we find preschool teachers coming in with that much experience and that much education background. It's not to say that it doesn't happen, but it's not normal for preschool. We oftentimes have those first year teachers that have a bachelor's degree. They might have a master's, but they generally don't have a lot of experience. We also, in that first estimate, we're looking at family insurance, which you know is the most expensive. And so it's not, again, it's not to say that you wouldn't have those, but in all likelihood, you're probably going to have, you know, a first year teacher with no experience and probably not family insurance.
Ann and I also wanted to offer that if any of you would like to go on a tour of our preschools, we would love to take you. We'll make sure you have our personal contact information when I send out the email. At the end of the presentation, we would love to walk you through our preschools and show you some of these items that we've talked about tonight, such as equity and social emotional learning and what our teachers and kids are doing every day. So feel free to contact us for that. And you can also use our personal contacts if you have any questions at any time.
Please let us know if you have any questions. We're more than happy to answer them for you. And we appreciate you giving us the time tonight to present.
Absolutely.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
As Joy disconnects or releases the control back to Tess, a lot of reference has been made to Noble Local School. I don't know if it was clear, but Noble Local's preschool is operated by the Ohio Valley ESC. So it is a Bright Beginnings preschool there. All 6 classes are ours. That is that's where our expansion has started. A couple districts in Washington County are looking at expanding as well. Rob, while I have the floor, could I make a couple other notes to the board?
Yeah, go right ahead, Andy. But first off, I'd like to thank Ann and Julie for attending and helping Jennifer with that presentation. I also like to thank Josh and Ellie for giving up their time and being involved in the meeting. I just feel that it's almost like a no-brainer. I mean, in the future, and it looked like the results are on.
Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. We appreciate your time and everybody that was a part of it. It was a great team to collaborate with. We look forward to continuing.
A couple other things that I'd like to share with the board. We recently hired a teacher for the visually impaired to work at Woodsfield for a few kids or a couple kids that have moved into the area. Her name is Jessica Rowe. And so Jessica, because of COVID and things, she has not directly met with those kids yet, but she's been working with Amanda Blackstone. But what I also wanted to mention that in this short period of time, Jessica has received a grant, and she will be bringing a Braille production center to Woodsfield Elementary, and that is going to be tremendous. Right now, the Braille materials that she is creating for those students are being produced on a very archaic machine, and so this will allow her to scan materials in and actually even I think teachers and paraprofessionals at the building can be trained on how to utilize this, and so the Braille materials can be created very, very easily without much time and effort. So that's tremendous that she's been on board with us for probably less than a month. and she's already getting materials and a grant to bring this into your district. The other thing that I wanted to mention, preschool is one of those things that gets me fired up. And the prospect of expanding and building that base, that foundation in Switzerland is, that really excites me. If you guys follow through with that, I think it'll be one of the best decisions that you've made. But the other thing that gets me excited about the work that we do is on the other end. It's all about career pathways. And we had Eric James on earlier, and Linda O'Connor were on and talking about what's happening at the Career Center and in the adult education program. But we are partnering with Switzerland as well as many other districts in our region. We are partnering with the AOMC that Mr. Rubel mentioned, as well as Building Bridges to Careers to, we're seeking a $150,000 grant through the Remote X group. And what we plan to do with that is actually to expand our career pathways efforts so that kids in high school understand and realize all of the industry credentials that are being offered, not only at Switzerland, but in every other district that we serve. We just feel like kids don't always know. And actually, there's evidence to say that our teachers don't always even know pathways that kids can graduate and those career or those industry credentials. So this grant is all about the promotion and the development of those credentials to bring more interest. And so we believe that if we are awarded that grant, we'll be able to help you promote those credentials that you're offering in your district, and we'll be able to bring greater interest to the industry fields so that kids have other options. They don't have to think that they have to go to college, but they can get these credentials and be employable the day they walk out of high school. So that's the other thing that we're working on for the district and for our region. Other than that, I don't have anything unless anyone has any specific questions for me. I would like to say I'm glad to see Rob is back and able to work. It's been a pleasure working with him, and it's been a pleasure working with the board. And if there's anything that I can do in the future for you, I'd be happy to help out.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Andy.
Brooks.
I appreciate that, and it was very nice working with you as well. All right. I think that should be everybody in the cabinet. So, Mr. Winkler, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay. We're down to consent agenda. Is there anything anyone wants to put out there or anything? Approval bundle, sorry?
No,
Oh,
it's me. I'm
okay.
sorry.
Approval bundle of Central High School donations from SMW Midstream Production Company for Science, Technology, English, and Math, $3,000. Approval of Horizon PRI line contract for school district VoIP phone system renewal for 5 years starting April 2021. Approval of Wichita Elementary School donation from Bear Heritage Credit Union for the holiday food drive project, $400. Approval of graduation dates for the district seniors and 8th graders for the 2020-2021 school year, and approval of the board minutes.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We can vote on that, please.
Okay, voting is open. Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes. Brings us down to old business, discussion and approval of use, sporting using facilities. We met on last meeting, I believe, or so we told them we'd come back with it. And we need a motion to approve, let the youth sports using our facilities with a plan. And I believe Mr. Roby can come up with a plan or protocol. Anyone got any questions?
There is a plan.
Mr. Remick, you here?
Took a game tonight, didn't he?
Huh? No.
Yeah,
He's on there, but he was having trouble.
When I talked to him, and I had something written up, and I guess he had a protocol, a plan to go by, but what we go by in the schools, you know. But I'll just say what I wanted. I wanted to take temperatures at the door, and I wanted a sign-in sheet that everyone signed in. Are you there? A sign-in sheet so we could track everyone in case they did have COVID, and everyone would be mandatory to wear a mask. I don't know what his was.
So was his approved by all the principals and athletic directors?
You know, George?
I think most of them was in agreement. I don't know if all of them was, but I think most of them was. One time I heard.
Well,
Because we had a little discussion, we were concerned we didn't want to put more on the ADs and.
yeah,
Like, remember that.
yeah. And I don't think the AD, the principal, ought to be responsible for being there that weekend. Someone, whoever signs the building forms, gonna be there, and then also use our OC people, our janitors, to clean up afterwards. I mean, there's probably only 3 weeks left. Probably, you know. And I know baseball or no one else is gonna use it, so this is probably gonna be for about 3 weeks.
Well, I think sometimes baseball does use it in the early season to get some practice indoors.
Yeah, but no, I'm not saying the youth sports. Youth sports is going to.
No, but I mean, I think youth sports have used gyms before for,
Baseball practice?
yeah, whenever it's raining outside.
Yeah, but I mean, I know they're using it for basketball now and everything, but I'm saying the youth sports is for the basketball tournaments or wrestling tournaments. I don't think it's.
Oh, I see what you mean, for events.
Yeah, for
Okay.
events, yeah.
Yeah, because we had the other policy for practice.
So I know Greg's on there. I mean, Greg, you got anything to say, or?
No, I mean, that's what we talked about was, I thought they were gonna come up with a plan. And we were gonna discuss it at this meeting. Obviously, Mark's not there or can't get on or whatever, but I thought we was all good with as long as there was a plan in place.
Yeah.
Greg, I'm
I
here.
believe
man.
If I can interject.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, what I understand, the plan was like you mentioned, that they would have to follow the exact same plan that everyone else does.
Yeah, I got it, Larry.
There you are.
Okay.
You had the plan, Mark?
Yes.
Okay. And the play's the same as everyone else, right?
Correct.
I'll make a motion, we approve it.
Is there a
If there's no more
second?
questions, I'll make a motion to
I'll second.
approve it.
I'd rather have the plan attached, but
Yeah,
we're basically, we don't see what we're voting on.
yeah.
I mean,
Mark?
Yes.
See the high school plan? Would be
Is it the
same.
high school plan or grade school plan, or what is it?
Yeah, it's the high school plan that everybody followed with the temperature checks. Every athlete, every participant, the coaches, all have to follow the same thing. So what would have to happen is they would need to get, if somebody was going to hold something, they would need to meet with, whether it be one of the athletic directors or one of the principals, elementary principal or whoever, to make sure they're following the same protocol that everybody else has to follow. Each school's a little bit different, and anybody that comes in, you would have to follow the regulations they have. I'm sure that Bellsville, Monroe Central, and River each have a little bit different with their seating because they're different gymnasiums. Same as protocol coming in. I know Monroe Central has a very strict protocol coming in, how you enter and everything. We enter through one door also. Bellsville does the same thing. So it would be the same protocol to follow that's being used currently. The person signing the building release form would be the person that is responsible for anything that takes place.
Okay, Sarah's fine with that.
Thank you, Mark.
Well, you're welcome.
Except that. Let me see.
So you got a motion on the floor, did we get a second or not?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, then let's vote.
Yeah, let's go on. Where mouth brings up the call.
Voting is open. Mr. Gunn?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carried. Now we're down to 2. Discussion and approval of ESC Joint Superintendent Pro Tem Shared Services Agreement.
Is this, did Kevin see this last one? There's like been 5 million.
Yeah, I'm trying to look for it right now.
It's attached, yes.
Is this one yeah, this is one Kevin sent, isn't it?
Mr. Winkler, that is the contract that Mr. Locke had provided.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Because when we discussed it, I said, the only way we'd do anything if it was from Kevin Locke. And this is the one, yeah, because, yeah. Anyone got any questions on that?
I thought there was an ending date on it.
There is.
But I don't think it can end till Rob comes back. He's not ever got his letter to come back yet.
He's 100% removed, right?
100% remote, but in person, he's got to have a letter saying that he's able to come back to work full time in person.
Yes, and I do have one. I informed Mr. Winkler of that, and I will be getting it to you. I had a doctor's appointment this week. I got one next week and one the following week. I'm off remotely, but he can start returning in person on March 1st.
Rob, we have an executive session to talk about personnel with you in there, correct?
Okay.
All right.
Until we vote on him coming back to work, then we have to keep the SC.
I don't necessarily agree, but.
Well, I'm just saying, look at your, we hired him, look at the policy, how we put him on leave. Now, it's saying in policy that he's gonna have a letter to come back. Now, we agreed that we was gonna hire the ESC to help us out. So he's not back there, so how can we get rid of the ESC? You explain it to me, I have no idea.
We have Rob 100% remote, so we have to.
We want him back in person.
I understand that, and I appreciate that, but you can't have 2 superintendents. And I'm not gonna speak for Rob, but I think he can do his job 100% remote, or he'd be telling us, so.
You better get one of your famous legal opinions again, because I'd say that until he gets a letter saying he can come back 100% in person, then we gotta keep the ESC. That's my opinion, just mine.
I don't have to get the high and mighty legal opinion to
Okay.
know that you can't have 2 superintendents. One person.
Mr. Brooks.
Yes, sir.
Hey, we got a question. If we agree to this, that means you're done, right? Even though we still might need you after tonight.
So the contract is set, the last day on that contract, it says February 1st. There is language there, if you look at it, that does explain other extenuating circumstances. But and I don't have that right in front of me, but as I recall, as I read that, it would imply, as best as I can recall by memory, that if Rob were to have come back early, then it could have been, the contract would have ended as soon as he came back. I don't know, without seeing it right in front of me, if it would imply that it could be extended beyond February 1st. I've got it here in my bag. I'll pull it out.
You are unmuted.
And whose discretion would it be extended?
I was trying to pull mine up.
Have to be the board. If you want to see mine? Okay, just a minute.
Mine's, I don't know which article he was talking about.
Maybe the top of page 2, the superintendent pro tem shall perform on an as-needed basis as duties specified in the law. I don't know if Andy can hear me, but.
I think Andy was trying to look up. Andy, was you looking up your copy as well?
Yes, ma'am.
That says for the term of this agreement at the
Yeah.
end of that sentence. Oh, mine popped up.
Andy,
Yes,
can you hear
sir.
me, Jerry?
Can you hear
Yes,
Jerry?
Jerry.
Yeah.
Have you got all the principal evaluations done?
No, sir. Phil and I are on the first round. So, for example, any principal that is up for contract needs to have 2 evaluations. So, I know I have finished up the one principal that I have that is, up for contract. So I've done his first evaluation. The second evaluation has to be completed prior to the board acting upon his contract for next year. So we were planning on having those finished by the end of March. Phil actually has the 4 principals that he has all are up for contract. So he is wrapping up the first round of observation for them. And then he will begin the second round as I start my second round for my one.
You are unmuted.
We're gonna have an executive session, all right? We'll talk about it then.
Well, we can hold this till after executive session.
We can table it.
Yeah, table for it.
We'll just table this till after executive session.
I make a motion to table.
Second.
The paragraph that I was referring to is paragraph 3 on the first page. So ending on February 1st or upon the occurrence of any of the following events, whichever occurs first. Notification by the board president that the superintendent's incapacity has ended. Failure to tender payment by the Switzerland of Ohio as set forth below. Or should Brooks refuse at any time and for any reason to provide superintendent services as set forth in this agreement.
Did I cover it?
I'm not a lawyer, but I would think that would be if the service is needed to end prior to February 1. That date could always be extended if it's needed.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yeah. Now we're down to approval of December finances.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Okay, voting is open.
This is number 3.
Is your box in?
Yeah, I voted yes.
Mine says no.
That's January financials.
I'm on December
Okay,
1st.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
No.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
I abstain. Now we're down to motion, discuss, and second and final readings on policies, catch-up agreement, 1619, 1619.01, 1619.02, .03, 3419, 3419.01, 3419.02, 34.19.03, 3432, 4419, 4419.01, 4419.02, 4419.03, 4432, 6700, 7450,
There you go.
7455, special update, Edgar review, up to 6325.
Did you hear me say there you go?
Yeah.
Sounds like an auctioneer.
Maybe I was
This
too
is
bothered.
coverall, you didn't
Yeah.
have them all.
Oh, sorry.
You gotta have them all.
You could just say as listed on the agenda.
Okay. All right, as listed. Now, what do we do now?
Discuss.
Yeah, well, was there any discussion on any of them?
The annual leave numbers that was changed, was that to match the bargaining agreements?
Any other questions?
All right, anyone got to discuss? You had one, didn't you?
She answered mine.
Oh, any more questions on any of them? We need a motion on that? Accept them all, or?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Voting is open. Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes, motion carried. Now we're down to new business. Discussion and approval of district-wide storage buildings at Monroe Central, Westfield River, Fayetteville, Skyview, Powhatan, total estimate of $52,289.65.
I'm assuming the locations have already been determined for those. Or Mr. Joris will work on that.
He said that, didn't he?
The location?
One for Woodville.
No, I mean the actual location.
Next to the building.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they've all been located.
Okay. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, voting is open. Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes, motion carried. Discussion and approval of ESC Principal Evaluation Service Contract. Need a motion for that, please.
Is there, I saw the cost in there, is that?
I think that's what we had agreed on.
We agreed on, yeah.
We had it.
How much longer? How much more time do they have?
Greg, want to know how much more time? I think Andy said they plan to wrap up by March, but this limits the amount that we would pay. I don't know how much is already accumulated.
Andy,
So
you know how
Greg,
much we-
so Greg, I can tell you that Phil has spent 8 days so far. And what I have done under the Superintendent Pro Tem. We each think that maximum we would need 10 more days. So he would need 10 and I would need 10. So we're looking at roughly 30 days. Now, the contract that we have submitted says up to 30 days. So we will get it done within that number of days. It could be fewer, but you know, that's what we're planning, that we don't think it will be any more than that.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Voting is open.
I'm stuck.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes. Discussion and action on possible adjustments to the district hybrid plan for 2020-2021 school year. Mr. Caldwell,
Yes.
you want to do that?
Yeah, I know the teachers union, I know they sent a survey out to all the teachers and they got the majority of the responses. And what we were proposing, and I talked to Mrs. Bohatch about this as well, and she can elaborate. We're in agreement that it might be best if we explore adjusting our hybrid model. Our hybrid model right now is we have Group A on Monday and Tuesday. Everybody was remote on Wednesday, and then Group B on Thursdays and Fridays. We would like for the board to consider everyone, Group A and Group B, everybody is in the buildings on Monday, Tuesday. It would be a remote day for everyone on Wednesday. That would give all of our teachers that have multiple students on remote learning from their parents choosing, give them ample time to plan and work with those students. And then also then on Thursday and Friday, everyone would return and come back in person also. So in a nutshell, it's everybody would be in 4 days a week and remote day on Wednesday. Mrs. Bohatch, is that what you agree with, correct?
Yes, and I see, right now, we kind of hoped that we would turn yellow and we'd be back to our yellow model, but we're still orange, and so the hybrid model is being really challenging educationally. We're finding that the students aren't getting it in school. The people who are getting COVID, there seem to be exposures to outside of the schools. There's a lot of learning lost right now, especially with snow days and the hybrid days and inconsistency. And we just feel that a lot of districts around us in the surrounding area and across the state now have moved to at least 100% 4 days a week, if not 5. So we think that this is a good move to do, and our kids are really missing out on a lot.
And then I'm assuming if the buildings had high quarantine of staff, they would have to adjust accordingly,
Exactly.
like we have in the past.
Our staff is doing a fantastic job cleaning and disinfecting all throughout the day, and then on those days that we are remote, they're doing an excellent job. The students are amazing in keeping their masks on, doing what they need to do, and even in the preschool, they haven't had one case in the preschool, and those kids, you know how little kids are.
Okay,
And, yeah, just touching and everything, and they've got their masks on, they're washing their hands and everything. So I think, you know, there's not 100% guarantee, but I think that when you weigh out the two options of how much learning is lost and the inconsistency and the social emotional piece of it, and then, you know, the risk of COVID, I think that we got to look at those options.
So why don't we go all in on Wednesday?
I think we still have to be careful because we do have quite a few kids across the district that are 100% remote. And that gives those teachers the chance to reach out specifically to those kids and catch them too.
How many do we have, do you know?
I don't have the exact number now, we're right around 120, 130, I think. I have to go back and pull the numbers.
That are remote with the district?
Right.
Yeah, but, I mean, we could approve this 4 days, and next month we could change to 5.
Right, it would be
But-
something,
And also, Rob, well, let's make a motion to whatever we want to do here.
Make the motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we recommend what the superintendent said, go 4 days a week, and Wednesday will be a remote day.
I second.
may I ask for clarification?
Yeah.
Would that be just if we are orange, or is that the rest of the year right now, as it stands now?
As it stands right now, the rest of the
4
year.
days?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're kind of going away with the color too.
Okay, I hope I wasn't out of order, but I just
No,
wanted to
no,
make
you're
sure
not.
it's clear.
No,
I-
Mrs. Boach, did you not have a day coming up in the future that we need to be remote?
On the 24th, we've already talked about professional development for 90 minutes for our staff, and that would be a hybrid or a remote day anyway. That's a
Yeah, I mean,
Wednesday.
you guys, right, you could change it, you know.
Yeah, that's up to you.
Okay, you got
We
it?
need a day.
I'm making a minute.
But we're just saying 4 days a week for all students, no matter what the color code is. That's what we're putting the motion on the floor for, right, Ronnie?
Yep. Now, Wednesday,
So we're
we're
second on it, we're ready to vote.
What's that, Rob?
Mine was
This is Greg. I was going to ask the question too, and Jennifer and Robin, are we under the understanding if we would go back to yellow next week, are we going to continue with the Wednesday remote day as opposed to 5 full days in school?
We're not doing 5 full days of school. That's 4 days all in.
I think what we're saying, Greg, is we're gonna go 4 days all in, 1 remote, and then next month we can revisit it. We can still go back to, 5 days if you want. But for today, they're wanting to put it right now, 4 days in.
So regardless of the color code,
Right.
is what I'm understanding.
Yeah.
He's asking for next week though, if it turns yellow.
That's what I'm saying. We ain't doing the color code anymore. We're eliminating the color code. So we go with the 4, 2, 1, and 2 until we meet again. Is that right, Jennifer?
Yeah, that's
what he was
That's
asking.
what
That's what the motion's on the floor about. We do that, we forget about the color code until we meet again.
So who is
And
the
that would
first?
start the week after next.
Wait,
Jay.
Rob's
We
got
got
something
to
to
say,
say.
we can't kick it.
January 2nd, right?
Right.
Yeah, what's that, Rob?
This would be, we would implement this the week after next. I think, what is that, Monday? Because next week we only have 4 days. And we already made the announcement that we will be Group A next Tuesday and Wednesday, Group B on Thursday and Friday. That was in order for our teachers to have enough time in advance to prepare.
Okay, but I want to hear what how's Greg?
Does Greg understand? That's what you understand.
No, but I'm not saying if he understands it, he might have something to say.
No question, okay.
No, I was saying exactly what Larry asked, was to make sure that we were under the understanding that
Yeah.
it was going to be this until we decide something else, not if we would go back to yellow, we go back to the yellow color code. Everybody was
Yeah,
under the
but-
understanding.
It wouldn't take long if we go back and you want to go 5 days. We'll have a special meeting for 15 minutes and that's it. We'll go 5 days.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Motion carried. Discussion approval of the OPC negotiation agreement between the Switzerland High Local School District and Switzerland High Local Schools OSBAO APSA Union, OPSI.
So moved.
Second.
Voting is open. Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Abstain. Discussion on approval of a Swiss Hills Career Center 12-month cleaning person, afternoon shift changing to a 9-month position. Need a motion, Harlan. So moved.
Second.
Voting is open. Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Now, the next one, discussion, approval of temporary postponing. Since we're going back 4 days a week, they might as well post it. That's why I say it's gonna be mute.
Well, I believe in the beginning, we can't postpone it because of their contract.
I know. So I'm just saying, it's on here. If I don't hear a motion, we go on.
But I'm saying if it happens in the future, we better look at their contract before we go trying to take it on ourselves to postpone.
I think if the work is not there, we probably have a provision, I hope.
Did you show me an show me
That's
an
all right.
policy?
Hey.
Well, that's what
Under
Suzanne was
contract.
trying to talk about, and she wasn't able to speak about it.
What's
Could we
that?
I think
ask her?
she was trying to talk about it earlier. If you guys have questions, I'm sure she'd be
Yeah,
willing to
could we ask if it
answer.
would change 1 to 4 days? How she feels about it now?
Yeah, go ahead. I just thought she was talking about us postponing it and why. And, I just said, okay. Go ahead.
I mean, if you have questions, I'm just saying, I don't know
Yeah,
if she's even
Well,
on
anybody
it.
can ask questions, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with
I'd
that.
like to hear what different.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't
I'm
even know if she's on there, so, yeah, she is.
Okay, bring her on.
Sarah, if you have questions, she can.
Hi, Ms. Holland, did you hear Ronnie's, statement that since we're going back to 4 days all in, does that alleviate your need to postpone the 4-hour cook position, or?
Going back to 4 days and full staff will, all the students will definitely help the claims increase. My recommendation is still to wait to see what happens with COVID, to see if the numbers end up going back and we have to go back to a remote or hybrid situation. The other part is I was backing myself up on the recommendations the board accepted in July from Chris. That was to try to reduce some of the hours. So it would help us in the long run, but whatever you'd like, I'm more than happy to do.
Okay, I had to,
Mrs. Holland, Article 18, Section 1801, did you read that before you come up with this idea? Article 18, Section 1801.
When I first started with the district, I did read it.
I can't hear you. What did you say?
I did read it when I first was hired on the district. When the situation came up and I looked at the plans, I wanted to speak to
I'm under the understanding that you done postponed this on your own. Now, it says in Article 18, unless the board decides not to fill this position, you have to rebid it. It should have already been rebid. And another thing, you should have had, probably even had a sub in the position, according to their contract.
Jerry,
If that is.
Jerry, this is Cindy. This is Cindy. I worked with the legal team and their suggestion is that we not post it until we take it to the board for you to take an action on it.
So you violate their contract then. How long has that job not been filled?
We didn't violate the contract. I followed the guidance of our legal team.
My question is, how many days has that job been vacant? You know?
Since December, early December.
Okay.
Maybe.
Your contract's saying a vacancy term shall be posted within 5 working days. Why wasn't it done then?
Can I say something?
Tell us you wanted to do away with it. You never contacted the board and said, hey, can we do away with this temporary or nothing? You should have posted it after the 5 days according to the contract.
At that point, the head cooks had not decided she wanted to take the position, was still deciding. And she had, I believe, 10 days to make that decision.
But did she, I can't hear nothing.
She said the cook didn't know she wanted the head cook's job. She had 10 days to change her mind.
Still have to, I'm telling you what their contract's saying.
I know. But there's a thing here. If someone make a motion to temporary, then we'll vote on it tonight.
I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation to postpone the 4-hour cook posting.
I'll second it.
Okay, voting is open.
And even though well, we got another week before we send them all back, we'll still be all right.
So I have a question. If we send them all back like we approved, what does that do to the numbers that we was provided?
Will the claims go up? Is that your question?
Will it justify the additional cook? The 4-hour position?
Right now, when the study was done in July, that kitchen was at 17.6. The meal per labor hour recommendation was 18. They were just under. My hope would be that everybody is eating and we can continue to promote this and the counts will go up.
I got.
You are unmuted.
It's unmuted.
Susan, I was sent some papers, and I don't know where they're at, but how many cook hours do you have at Woodsville Elementary in them compared to River and say West Monroe Central? How many hours you have there compared to the lunches that they serve compared to Rivers? Did you ever look at them?
Okay. Yes, I did.
Yeah. How much?
River has 20 hours. Woodsfield has 25 hours. Let's see here. Swiss Hills has 12. Skyview has 14.5. Monroe has 15. Woodsfield has 25. Powhatan has 15.5, and Bellsville has 17.5.
Yeah.
You are unmuted.
Right. And then you look at how many lunches, how many kids they're serving compared to what River's serving.
But you have a high enrollment, but you don't have the total buying. served meals.
You are unmuted.
Lunches at River on less hours,
Yeah,
and they're doing away with this position. It don't,
I know, that makes
I
sense.
don't comprehend it. I don't understand.
Jerry, we gotta move on this vote because,
Well, I'm
Right.
trying to understand it so I can vote.
Ron-
Yeah, so.
Ronnie, can I say something?
yeah,
Now, we decided to go with our own food people and hire them so we didn't lose so much money in the food program. And I think what Suzanne's saying is it doesn't justify this 4-hour position because we're losing the claims, which means we're losing money. And Jerry, you was the one that brought this whole thing up about the food service thing. And now you want to hire a position back and it's not going to be justified in the claims. So postponing this temporarily until we get our claims back up is the only logical way to do it.
You are unmuted.
all right.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Mrs. Anderson?
Abstain.
Mr. Gus?
No.
Mr. Winkler?
No. Discussion and action on play target sports in the Switzerland High Local School District. We all heard Mr. Stewart. I'd like to make the motion, we accept it.
A second.
Hey, not to be a good owner, but the motion failed there. You understand they have to post that job? Ronnie?
Who was my first on that? You were
Tony,
my first,
is that right?
Ronnie and then.
Okay.
You moved on too quick.
No.
The motion failed, so they have to post that job. Is that correct?
Okay, voting is open. Well,
Huh?
not
Yeah.
yet. Yes, it's
Yeah, it
open
failed.
Am I right, Connie?
now. What?
That motion failed, so they have to post that job. Is that right?
I believe so.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I have you first and second, Ronnie. Okay, there we go. Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Abstain.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Can he hear us?
Oh, yeah, I don't have it muted.
Mr. Shoemaker? He's frozen. He's not blinking.
There he is.
Mr. Shoemaker, can you hear us?
I can do the start.
Yes.
It was- There he is.
Yes.
Got it.
He's froze.
He's delayed, but we got it.
Okay, motion carried. Discussion
now.
and approval.
Yes, sir.
Discussion and approval of hiring 2 part-time adult ed instructors at Swiss Hills Career Center, 1 for welding and 1 for heavy equipment.
So what they're saying is we vote for these, then they're gonna start a heavy equipment class, which they promised they wouldn't let. They promised it back when we voted, the board, Mark Rummy confirmed it. Now they wanna start a class to use the equipment. Is that correct?
I would rather hear the meeting notes before we confirm that was
Well, Mark Rummy
what was
confirmed
promised.
it, but that's
But I
fine.
don't think it was verbalized. I don't
Yeah, I
don't
think
remember that
this is
being
a little
said.
premature anyhow. Hiring teachers so we don't know about the class, how many's in it anyhow.
Well, I can understand him wanting us to approve the
Yeah.
teachers because they can't promote it if
Yeah.
they don't have our approval
Yeah,
for the
I
teacher.
understand that.
But do you really think it's gonna damage the equipment or?
Yes.
I mean, I know it's gonna have wear and tear,
Okay, but where's the benefit for the adult education using this? And you're trying to make money or something. I don't understand. But what's the benefit for letting them have adult education on the heavy equipment when they promised that they wouldn't use it? Tell me where it benefits us. Tell me.
Jerry, I can tell you.
Tell me.
If a kid graduates and he's 18 years old and he's looking for a job, he can come right back into this program, get trained on heavy equipment or welding or chemical operators, and get a job with everything that's happening now. It's not for people that are 50 or 60 years old. It's for young people to be trained and be immediately employed. And you're talking about, you think kids aren't going to destroy the machines the adults will take better care of because they probably are experienced in something like that. And I don't know, no one said any promises about not using any equipment.
Well, if you go back to the meeting, you'll see that was a promise made to the board. When we
There's a
purchased
promise
it,
in a motion that was approved.
Huh?
A motion that was approved.
What I asked him, I wanted to clarify before we voted. I said, Mark, if we vote on this equipment will be used by the kids only. We won't be going out doing work and abusing and everything. He said it will be used by the kids only, nobody else.
There was no motion, so there was no approval.
I guess it's a gentleman's agreement, you could call it.
That doesn't mean anything.
I know.
Well, if it's part of the meeting, it should mean something.
Yeah, I mean,
Can we just
can we
table
table
it?
it until we
Or
get the meeting?
postpone it too.
Greg, how would you want to do, table or postpone? What do you?
Well, tables till later in the meeting, postpones to the next meeting.
Till the next meeting, and let's get the minutes out. Connie, you know the meeting, right?
I can figure it out.
Okay.
And if we get it figured out, I would like to have a special meeting to
Yeah.
get it approved so they can.
I actually think we need a work session,
Yeah, we probably will.
especially if we're going back 4 days a week. We need a work session.
We need a special meeting, but, okay, I need to put a motion on here. Postpone
Yeah.
it to- I'll make a motion, we postpone this till the next meeting.
I second.
Voting is open.
We're gonna have to get a cable hooked to our computers.
What?
Cable, mine's really slow.
For internet.
I vote yes.
Okay. Mr. Winkler,
Yes.
Mr. Gus,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker,
Abstain.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Down to, need a motion to approve January finances.
I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, voting is open.
I'm gonna try rejoining.
You want to vote yes?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
No.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Abstain. Approval of transfers, vendor certificate, revenue and appropriations. Need a motion to accept that, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Abstain.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes. Now we're down to executive session.
Make a motion, we go into executive session.
You have to state the reason.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, which one's this one for?
Oh,
It does have it on my, huh?
personnel, Ron.
Oh, the first one?
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be good. Okay, we need to go in executive session for the investigation of charges or complaints.
Wait.
That's
I'm
not
sorry, it was the opposite way before, so
Yeah.
this one is,
Well, this one should be this one.
Yeah.
but it's not Rob.
No, it's
Right.
not, it's,
Yeah,
The
but
one
no,
you
that-
asked.
you're right. Yeah, you're right. It says executive session for investigation. Keep going. Sorry.
yeah, but this one says of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensed, or regulated individual, but it should have discipline in there. I'll tell you what it's supposed to read.
That should be exactly what you sent me.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what
Well,
exactly.
the discipline is under the personnel.
It's under the next one.
Yeah. Well, then we can't discuss
We
one.
can't discuss it.
It's attached to the person.
Okay, this is what I wanted. The investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensed, or regulated individual.
That's what it is.
That's what it says.
And that's what
Okay, it should have discipline on it. Okay, I need a motion for that, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, voting is open.
come in on this one.
Just us for right now.
Bev, how you want to vote?
Yes, I'm voting right at the moment.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes, motion carried. Let the time reflect. 8:40.
Second.
Voting is open.
I want to vote yes, I'm not on board docs.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes. Time is 9. Didn't take long.
Try to.
You are unmuted.
Greg, can you hear us?
I gotta log in. Log me out.
Greg can hear us now.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. It logged me out.
Okay, so we're to all personnel.
No, we gotta get all business first.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. So back to
Okay,
the-
so, Ronnie, I'm ready.
Ready? I'd like to call this meeting back to order at, 9:25, okay. Okay, now we gotta go back, discussion approval of ESC, Joint Superintendent Pro Tem Shared Services Agreement under old business. I need a motion to accept that, please.
So move.
Second.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay, Bev was first.
No, Jerry was.
Jerry, okay. Got it. Okay, voting is open. Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes, motion carried. Now we're down to personnel, we're under certificated.
I'd like to pull that the sales teacher, so we can vote on it separately.
Okay.
I don't know how to say the name. I don't know if you-
We like that.
So he's making a motion to pull,
He'd like to have him pulled out, so he's voting them separate.
the motion to pull out.
Hmm.
Can I ask the question?
Yeah.
So Jerry, I have a motion for you to pull out that, I have it up here, so I have you as a first.
Beth, I think,
You don't need a motion on it.
No,
no, I
Oh, you
just.
don't want a motion?
No,
Okay.
I just.
just vote on it separate.
So we can vote on them separately.
Okay.
We have a question on that, so.
Yeah, we got to discuss, but
I'd just like to know why the date is effective February 4th rather than a prior date. If there's someone that can answer that.
this is the new contract, Beth. They want to make him a permanent sub. That's when it's starting. Is that right, Connie?
So effective February 4th, this is, he has a sub license, so they're dating it back to February 4th for sub pay. That's when they're changing it to sub pay.
So the 14,000 would be the balance of the year he would get for subbing? Is that correct?
Where are you seeing 14,000?
Compensation, the salary of the permanent substitute would be 14,421, effective 2/4/21, and 13 pay periods. And,
But why wouldn't it be prior to that? That's my question.
what's that?
Why wouldn't it be prior to that?
Cindy would be able to answer
Yeah,
that.
I wanna know about, I got a couple questions about this. Connie, did you know he didn't have no license?
No, not until I was made aware last week. They were working on his licensure.
Okay, because he really.
I can answer some questions about this.
Did you hear me?
Hey,
Connie?
wait a minute, we got Cindy on.
Cindy can answer questions.
So his license has been since September 15th of 2020 in process with Department of Education. What we've run into, he has an Ohio State University's PhD in physics, which isn't the problem, but when we went to license him, he has he has 2 undergraduate degrees that are international transcripts. So when we sent those to ODE, which that's what started the process on 9/15, they came back, and it takes time and COVID and all of this, but then they came back and said they wanted, well, he paid to have them prescribe the transcripts. And they came back and said, well, we have to use a service to have those read. So they gave us a handful of, or just a couple services that we could choose from. And I believe by the time my office staff had gotten somebody, and this is during COVID, to answer the phone, take it, payment to go through, and for them to read the transcripts, those transcripts finally came back on February 5th of 2021. At that time, they went back to ODE. Oh wait, January 15th. They went back to ODE at that time, and then they made clarification what he needed to do then to finalize the license. And that was at the end of the month in January. And on somewhere between the
3rd and the 4th, when we finally got the letter back from ODE that said what test he needed to sit for after they had evaluated his license, that's when we put him on subpay. He has met all of the qualifications to continue to set, but what they tell me is that the quickest that he can go through right now would be March 1st. And as of the 11th, well, today, I received an official letter from them that when his license, so that we could get him, he instantly was able to get the subs license. He could do that right with his PhD. As of today, I received a letter in writing from ODE that said once he sits for his test on March 1st and they approve it, which takes 5 to 7 days, that he will have a license with an effective date of July 1st of 2020. So really, because of the process that we're in with COVID, not a lot of testing sites available, and the fact that we started with 2 international transcripts with him that had to be read outside of Ohio Department of Education, that's why he has been in process this entire time. So because I could get the license, the substitute license immediately when we got the letter from ODE of what he needed to do, that working with ODE, we got that, so it gives him the substitute license, and then in about a month, he should be able to have the permanent license number. That's why. It's been a long process, but he has been in process.
You are unmuted.
Are there any
When did you
questions?
That he didn't have a license.
We hire a lot of people at the Career Center that don't have a license on day one. There's a grace period of 60 days. We have been working within that, but his was a little bit difficult. He's not the first one we had at OD or out at Swiss Hills that has an international license. It took a little time with that one too. He is on an alternative route, and that is completely okay.
Connie, I think when we talked about hiring this HR position, you were saying before we need it because they'll get your information so you'll make the right payment. In other words, how they're certified and if they got a master's. That way, when they turn that into you, then by law, you can go ahead and write them a paycheck. Is that correct?
Yes, and Cindy and I had this discussion the other day. Any time that it would go to the board, it should be ready for my department to start paying. And everything should be verified and checked by then. Her and I just had that conversation the other day, yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It should have been, okay that he had, when you start paying, you've been paying him as a licensed teacher, is that right?
Yes.
And he shouldn't have been paid as a licensed teacher, is that right?
That is not completely correct.
Yes.
So somebody's made a mistake, okay.
Now let's go on with this personnel, please. Okay, under certificated, since we pulled him out, we'll vote on the rest of them. So I have a motion to accept the other ones.
So moved.
I'll second it.
So this is a motion to approve everything except for him, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Bev, were you the first or second?
First.
First.
Okay, I have them backwards. I'm
That's all right.
sorry. I was fixing it. Okay, let's fix it. Bev, are you having problems still?
Evidently. I vote yes.
Okay. All right. Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes.
Motion carried, I'm sorry. Now we're down to approving, however you pronounce his name, for the substitute certificate, Swiss Hills. Need a motion, please.
I'll make a motion, we approve this permanent sub contract for
Yeah.
him.
Is there a second?
I can't hear anybody.
Hey, there,
all right.
we're voting on the math.
You are unmuted.
Greg can hear?
I can now.
Just tell him what we're doing.
Sarah made a motion to approve the Swiss Hills teacher for the permanent sub.
I'll second it.
Okay, voting is open. Bev, how do you want to vote?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes. Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
No.
Mr. Winkler?
No, motion carried. Now we're down to classified. Need a motion to accept the classified. I'll make that motion.
I second. Any questions on that, too?
No.
Voting is open.
You want to should ask, Mrs. Smith was always asked.
I should ask you, Jerry.
I'm just saying, she always asks us to the same.
I'll vote yes. My thing takes hours to pop up.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes.
Motion carried. Hey, we're down to supplementals now, and I do want to make sure that earlier in the meeting, I wanted to note that to accept the resignation of Bill Fox as Bellsville football coach, right ahead, before we approve Rusty Bondi as Bellsville head football coach.
Well, the way that they have it, they're rescinding
Okay, we said, okay,
that
then it,
recommendation, so.
okay, yeah, thank you. All right, we can, oh, I see it up there now.
And I apologize because Cindy Graham thought that it was approved last meeting. She missed it when she was on this agenda. Mrs. Anderson called me at 5:05 or whatever it was. I was getting ready. So she questioned it, and I was getting ready to come here. I had Cindy go ahead and add it on and send the notification, so that's
Hey.
what happened.
Thank you. All I need is
It
a
was a
motion.
late
Thank you
add.
very much. Need a motion to accept the supplementals. No questions?
Thank you, Ronnie.
So moved.
I'll-
Or did you make the motion?
No, I'll second it. I just said, any questions? Jerry could-
Uh-oh, Jerry's drumming up a question.
Yeah, I got a question.
Voting's open.
When this is done,
Okay.
Oh, there
I thought we was gonna approve these master pluses tonight. What happened?
we go. Good, it was
We
never
did.
classified.
We're at, oh, that's
Classified.
Certified, beg your pardon, certified.
certified. I didn't see it.
It's the,
Oh, I see it now, yeah.
All right.
Bev, how do you want to
Yes.
vote? Okay. Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
yes.
Motion carried, I'm sorry. Substitutes. Need a motion to accept the substitutes, please.
So moved. Second.
Voting is open.
No, I'm just glad that we get it done. Getting tired of hearing about it.
Bev?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Winkler.
Yes. Motion carried. Now we're down to adjournment.
I make a motion we adjourn.
Second.
Wow, you guys
But
are quick.
no, it's too early.
We're within that 8-hour window, weren't we, Dare?
No, 4 hours. We have to.
He wanted to be out of here by 10.
Yeah, because we have to start again if we don't. We have to come back tomorrow. That's our new policy, right, Beth?
No.
Not
Oh,
in
we didn't
writing.
make it? I thought.
We just let you think we approved it.
Gee.
Okay, voting's open.
We're just gonna get done by 10, yes.
You're on the drill, Beth.
Yes.
We're just gonna do it and have it over with.
Thank you.
Sarah?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
You guys aren't coming in for some reason, okay. Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Gus?
Yes.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Winkler?
Yes.
Okay,
Is that
Okay.
all?
no, not yet.
Hit the big red button, right?
Read your email. Robert
yeah.
sent a email stating he's ready, he's cleared to work full-time remotely.
Okay, so,
We just,
Stop.
got it.
okay, I'm good, or did you stop it?
I